Call of Duty 1984.
And PS plus more of your money. Well, hello and welcome to Triangle Square, the PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, as always, is the fierce, the mean, the gnome, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, everyone. Chris Figs. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, just wonderful. How are you, Brett?
I'm doing wonderful. Sorry, I got a little caught up. I was reminiscing on our time within, the world of Baldur's Gate 3. So, but we'll get to that in a little bit. If you're new to the podcast, Faerun, yes. If you're new to the podcast, welcome first and foremost. We are glad that you're here. Hopefully you'll stick around as we get to talking about a bunch in gaming. We're going to be talking about PS Plus's price hike, which is one of the big things that's happening. Respawn finally putting out a complete version of a game that should have been so at launch, as far as I'm concerned. What the PS Plus games are and more. But what we always do at the beginning of these episodes is start off with a time-honored tradition of seeing what each other have been playing so that we can either fill each other in on games that we might have been missing or maybe fill you in on a game that you might have been missing that you might like. So, Chris, I will defer to you as always. What have you been playing this week that I have not been playing with you?
Let's see. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which is a lot of fun. You've seen that, right?
I haven't even seen it. I know that you said it was one of your you were excited for it games, and then I looked at it, and it looked like one of the printies from the Disgaea series, because the art, at least, unless I'm hugely mistaken,
I don't know.
The art on PlayStation looked like a penguin.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. No, that's facts.
So that made me think, oh, Printy. But I remember now that I've thought about the name that this is the spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio.
That is correct, yes.
Yes, I do remember this name now. Yeah. So yeah. I have seen this. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, no, it's very good. It does remind me a lot of Jet Set. It has the same art style, which is really cool. So far, music, not as good. Still good.
Well, we have a question about that.
Okay, go.
So might as well throw it in here. Why not? First question of the episode then comes from one of our patrons, longtime listeners, Mr. B. Raj 88, and he says, "What's your favorite video game soundtrack of all time?" Oh, Chris is trying not to say Persona 5. It's like he's like,
No, ironically, I'm trying not to say another game because I'm fairly positive my favorite is Nier Automata.
It's so good. It is so good. It's funny because Nier Automata. So here's the hierarchy, and it's really hard for me because it rotates a lot, and there's been new and old editions. So Nier and Nier Automata are basically line for line, and a lot of that is because the way that they chose to go about composing music for that game is that there's so many musical references to the first Nier game on purpose because of the parallels between different characters. So both of those games are incredible soundtracks. I basically view them as one soundtrack. I think Square at this point does too, considering they released both of them as a vinyl set.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're gonna go, what is your runner up? Because I want to talk about my runner up too, because I do think it is Nier Automata and Nier. Like I said, they're the same.
Persona 5.
Oh, okay. I had a feeling.
Yeah.
But I was curious to see if Jet Set Future would get in there.
It's there. It's close because I have a lot of runners up. What are yours?
I have a lot of them too, and a lot of them are oddly enough Sonic games. I have Sonic Adventure 2 has one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. The weird 90s hip-hop that they got for all the Knuckles things are so good. All the Crush 44 songs that were done for it, incredible. But more recently, I have been rotating through the Sonic Frontiers soundtrack like fierce. It's so
Sonic
good. And when I say the
Frontiers.
soundtrack, I mean the entire thing. I listen to all 120 whatever songs they are. I just put it on while I'm working, and it's so good. So here's the difference for how they choose to release a soundtrack, right? This soundtrack and its unofficial things that you can. I listen to it on Google Play.
Sure.
Or I call it Google Play, but it's YouTube Music. Anyway, so I listen to it on there, and the difference between how it's set up is that it's literally any musical anything from the game, just in order of where they take place in the game.
Okay.
So like the first song is the opening track that you see in the opening cutscene, and then the rest of it's like cutscene, hidden technology. Next song, cutscene, arriving on Starfall Islands. And these are like anywhere from 40 seconds to like 5 minutes, depending on what part of the game it's in. So it's real different.
Shit. That's so
Yeah,
many. It's like, it's a lot of tracks, but then, okay.
It's
real
150
quick,
tracks.
Yeah. Quick. Why does Spotify have discs? This is like disc 1, and then it's 23 songs, and it's disc 2.
Well, you can buy
digital.
This physically, but that is a little odd. I didn't know that was a thing.
Spotify screen.
Now you've got me wondering, does it have Smashing Pumpkins? Now I'm incredibly curious. Does it have Melancholy and Infinite Sadness broken up by which disc, which songs are on?
Maybe,
because YouTube Music does not, which is fine. I mean, they are in order.
I was looking
I don't use Spotify, so I don't know.
I was looking at a different, like just a regular music album, and it had discs. Like it says that. I don't know why it does, but whatever. It's a tangent.
I mean, that's kind of cool though. If you just want to be able to be like, yeah, disc 4, track 7.
Yeah, I guess.
Why the hell not?
I have a bunch that I really like though, like Doom.
Oh, Doom's it's incredible. All-time
great. All-time great soundtrack,
dude. And Doom Eternal, you have to view those almost as one, because Doom Eternal has some of the sickest songs, but I think that the Doom soundtrack as a whole is a little bit better.
No song on either soundtrack is as good as BFG, right?
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of, that's my whole thing. Like I'm always gonna pick BFG over any of those other ones.
But give me anything from Mick Gordon and I'm happy. Dude's incredible.
Exactly.
He's so good.
Fallout 3, fantastic.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Just to shout out one more that's a little, to be fair, I think Sonic's pretty unorthodox, and so is Nier. Like these are soundtracks, though to be fair, almost all Sonic games have soundtrack songs where they sound more like score and OST, and then songs that are legit songs, because the Sonic Frontiers, like there's like 7 songs that are just full on, they sound like they don't even exist within the Sonic. Like you could listen to them and not know they were from Sonic or from a game at all.
Rolling around at the speed of
sound. Yeah, exactly. Great song. That's what I'm saying. Sonic's kind of always skirted around that, but a more traditional soundtrack that's more akin to Nier that's great is Oblivion. The soundtrack in Skyrim is also good, but Oblivion's adventuring and like exploration is so punctuated by the beautiful swell of music, and I think it really works well with the Cyrodiil landscape because it's more like big stretching fields and mountains, as opposed to Skyrim, where Skyrim tried to have like, and I get it, right, because Oblivion's a big game and it's almost all one type of environment, which is a little unfortunate. But Skyrim went this other way that's also great, and I still love it, but it's a little less realistic feeling in a weird way, where it feels like there's like a micro bubble of a bunch of different climate options. So it's like, well, we're going to have Winterhold, and we're going to have ice, and then you're going to have where the Thieves Guild at? I can't even think of it right now. It starts with an R, I feel like, but
River Run.
No, Whiterun's the main city in the center. It's killing me. I can't think of it, but it doesn't matter. Riven. I was thinking that too, but I don't know. I still feel off about that. If it is, it is. But it's like fall, and you can see the leaves like falling and twisting. And it's really pretty, but it's like, I don't know. Something about this feels weird. I don't feel like if there was like 2 or 3 in a world, but I don't know how to describe it. It's really good, but it does make it feel even more video gamey to me for some reason. And a lot of games have that. You're trying to fight your thing, but specifically exploration in Oblivion's great because, dude, it's just like rolling over a hill and it being dynamic and it welling up with this big orchestral piece is so pretty. It's beautiful. I love it.
Dude, I mean, speaking of that exact experience, I don't think this is a spoiler.
Death Stranding?
Going over the snowy mountain in Death Stranding when the music plays.
Oh, dude.
And the soundtrack, like in general, like just that CD, like with churches and what is it? Is it Bring Me the Horizon? It is Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah, Bring Me the Horizon's on there. Yeah.
Bangers. Those 2 songs especially, fire all day.
Yeah.
And more traditional. Recency bias a little bit, but I've been bumping Baldur's Gate 3 all day.
Dude. That
menu,
that main theme, the menu theme.
Oh man,
dude, that little down by the rivers.
Oh my God, I love that part.
It's so good.
The best part. It's so funny because what we've been playing, Baldur's Gate 3. So there was that moment when you guys when you guys were creating your characters, and like when we were doing that, I was done solid 30 minutes before you guys, I think.
100%. Yes, yeah.
Like Brett and Sean, who we've been playing with, creating their characters. Brett was coming up with a backstory. I named my character Taylor Swift because she was a bard who plays guitar, and that's all I did. And then I said, okay, I randomized my guardian, but the only reason that wasn't that bad was because A, I was playing Marvel Snap, and B, the soundtrack just kept looping in my headphones for 30 minutes. And you're right, it was that down by the river, and then it just hits again. Like, this is great stuff.
Dude, it's I told you. So one of the questions we get asked sometimes, and like I have a general thing where I talk about that I usually don't love character creation in games because I think I tend to spend too much time in it, as you saw. And that's because in my mind, I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go ham and I will have a reason for everything. So like, as I was talking about, I originally had a different name plan for my guy and everything. And I was making all of these changes to him based off of what I wanted him to be. Once I landed on him being a paladin tiefling, I was like, I've got it. I know how I want to approach this. And I kept going. And I was really surprised at the level of detail because I came up in my head with this version of what I wanted. And I actually didn't think the game would provide enough detail for me to do it. And I don't know if you've caught on yet, but if you notice that my paladin has one blue glowing eye and one red glowing eye, and the red glowing eye is on the side where he's got like a black smoke tattoo coming down.
Yeah.
Okay. So my character's unaware of this, but he's actually two different, he's part holy, part devil, even though tieflings are, so he's the prodigy, the progeny, whatever you want to call it, of a holy being and an evil being, and that his markings and everything on the side are supposed to be his evil thing. And I was trying to have that play into the story when I went the vengeance route. And as we found out, I can't keep my oath. But it's okay because now I feel like it's even though that's what I wanted it to be, and that is still the backstory that I'm sticking with in my head, visually I'm on brand for my oath breaker that I just joined last night. So I look really
so sick. So your character in your head is just a Nephilim then?
Yes, there's a little more to it, but that's also why he's a paladin and why he's drawn to religion.
Gotcha.
Because there's this innate feeling. So he was abandoned as a child. He doesn't know who his parents are.
I respect the gumption that you've shown for Baldur's Gate 3.
I take it very seriously, but not so seriously that I won't have fun. I mean, I've been doing stupid shit a lot. And I've been rolling incredible highs of nat 20s or incredible nat 1s. I mean, my character is either a critical success or a critical failure, and there's nothing in between.
So, okay, I have to tell the story of probably the single funniest time Brett rolled. So, as I said, I'm playing a bard, so I provide a bunch of stuff. So you had a +7, and you needed to roll a 7. Inspiration and your other bonuses, whatever. So I just look at you. I just say in the party chat, I'm like, Brett, the only thing you cannot roll is a 1. Like, this is easy. We're getting through this. You immediately rolled a 1. We failed the check, and I think we got into a fight after that. Did we not? Or was that just something else? I don't really remember.
I felt like that was the brain removing the. I don't want to say too much, but I'm pretty sure that was the brain.
Yeah, because we blew that too, right? The guy died in that first.
Oh, I was like, you have fun. You take the good, you take the bad.
Yeah, I've had a couple times where I had to be like, guys, we need to play together. Like, the whole point of my character is to help you in combat.
I got better at that.
You did. I just think it was a little. I guess, are we talking about Ball? We're talking about Baldur's Gate 3.
Well, yeah, the question's done. Thanks, B. Rods. We appreciate it. The answer is clearly that we have favorites, but the other answer is that we are spoiled for choice right now. So, I mean,
yeah.
We've been spoiled for choice our whole damn lives. Just throwing that out there. There's a lot of really good video game soundtracks. Continue to Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, we've been playing the shit out of it.
We have been playing the shit out of it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's funny how much backstory you put into yours, because like I have like, my character has a backstory, but like honestly, I thought it was funny to be a gnome, and I always play as females and or women, whatever, and I just make them hot. I'm just like, what? Is this character hot? Yes.
Okay, yeah, you are a saucy little gnome.
Oh hell yeah, dog. Buy a step stool and everything for the house. But that's really it. Like, I don't have like my parents or anything. I just know that she played in bars, and Kanye West bought all of her debut album to put her on the charts.
Exactly. Yeah, and she got interrupted at the Bard Awards and told that Beyonce had the best video of all time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think what would be interesting is if my character was a reincarnation of another character who is the leader of the Satanic Church, who I just happen to look a lot like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I gotcha. Well, it's funny you say like I put all this thing it's why I don't play. My friends they didn't, hate's a strong word because that's really not what it was, but I could tell that the few times I've played D&D with friends groups, I always spend so long on character creation because I'm like, I got to know everything about my guy, because I have to know how my guy interacts and why he makes what decisions he makes, because I already have a view on who my guy is and what has shaped him. And even when it's something ridiculous like Horsedick.mpeg, my very first ever D&D character, who was a centaur. Great movie also. But the centaur who they refused to let me make the human centipede, which I've told this story, but they refused to let me do that. So I landed on Horsedick.mpeg, who was a centaur who had a penis that was pierced, and he could put like metal things on the end of his penis, and then like the piercing was where he'd like shove a rod through to hold the thing in place, and then he could projectile shoot at his dick in order to like break through walls, swing on trees and shit. It was awesome. But I had a whole thing. And the whole idea came from one of my other friends who we were playing with. I wasn't part of a previous thing, but in a previous setup, he had said that he had charmed a horse and ended up having sex with a horse. And his character, as he started riding it, he had this vague, like, I'm not from this dimension. And so my headcanon became, he's actually from another dimension. He's been dimension hopping around, and he is my father. Oh. And I am the offspring of the one-off encounter he had with this horse in a different dimension.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I've been looking for my father since the day my mother died.
I like that. Me as someone who would like to DM, I would prefer my people hand me like a 20-page document that's like, this is everything about my character. Have fun. Because think about that from a storytelling perspective, right? And like a player interactive part. If I'm like halfway through our D&D campaign, we come over a hill and we see a horse laying on the ground with its throat slit, and it's crying and begging for help, and it turns out to be your parent, your mother.
Oh yeah.
Is dying, and then it turns you into, you break your oath because we go on this quest to kill the person who happened to kill this horse, which you end up finding out as he's dying, and you break your oath as a paladin that the horse had broken its leg, and there was clearly nothing else you could do for a horse with a broken leg, so you killed it.
Yeah, put yourself in hard character situations.
World building.
But see, the weird thing about D&D is that day it was like a hit where we were like, well, it's really fun to create your character with everyone else around, but it kind of means that whole day becomes everybody creating their characters to some degree while you're talking through, because it takes a big chunk out of your playtime. So it's like, they were like, well, maybe we could build characters in the future and just bring them on the day of. And I was like, yeah, but then you don't get to interact, and you don't get to change your character based off of something that someone else said that makes you go, oh, this would be kind of interesting. And I mean, both are valid for different reasons, but I really like being in a room with somebody. Like, I was listening intently, whether y'all knew it or not, to what y'all were creating, because I was trying to be like, am I going to alter what I was like as I'm thinking my process, or am I going to alter anything based off of what I'm hearing?
See, that for me, in Baldur's Gate, whatever, but in D&D, that if I was the GM, I'd be like, you do it at home and you don't do it at all. Because then I could be like, I know the stuff and I can tell the story, but the other characters don't know reveals. Like the way you were talking about it kind of ruins that.
Yeah, like I said, there's good sides to both. It just depends on how you want to do it.
When we do Triangle Squared presents Dungeons and Dragons and I DM that story, you have to come to me with a character.
Sure, I will come to you with a character so long, and I'll even do that so long as you edit it, post it, all that good stuff.
But we're not putting it on video.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, whatever.
Okay, let's do it. I can get people to do it. All right, we'll do it. Once a month.
Once a month. Okay. Period.
Yeah, period.
All that was a bad
Cardi
joke.
B. Oh, I get it. I thought you were doing the Cardi B thing. That was a bad joke because I don't even know if that was a bad or a good joke because I clicked with the joke, but with the wrong punchline.
I think it's an even better joke at that point.
Yeah. Either way, Baldur's Gate is really fun, and I'm glad you're enjoying it because I was telling Sean today, I'm like, I kind of feel like I forced Brett at gunpoint to play this game.
Oh, you 100%. Don't get me wrong. I was not against playing it at all. But this is what happened. You were like a guy who broke into my house, and I was like already going to give you the money, but then you were like, as I was saying, like, yeah, okay, here, cool, I'll give you my money, just follow me. You were like pointing the gun at me and be like, don't make me, I'll fucking do it, man. I'll fucking do it. Yeah, that's basically the situation we had. You were like, Baldur's Gate 3. I was like, yeah, it looks cool. And you're like, you're going to play it with me. You're going to do it now. You're going to do it once a week. We're going to schedule it. And Sean's going to make sure. And then we're going to have to play through. And then, and here we are. I mean, it happened. It worked.
Yeah. And listen, what I appreciate is that we've been like, yeah, we'll just play every fucking night. It's fine.
I didn't anticipate that. And here we are. Yeah.
I didn't either, but I was
like, glad, honestly, if we get done with enough time today, I mean, yeah, we're hopping
we're definitely playing, absolutely, because we got to get ready for the one with Ben, which is now our 4-player thing. But hopefully, I was telling Sean today, and maybe tease for the listeners, this will be me pointing more guns at Brett. I think what would be really cool is if we do all 4, do the campaign, finish it up, we put out like a big ass spoiler kind of podcast about it, talking about our specific campaign. I think that would be really fun.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Please don't point any more guns at me. That's all I'll say. Not to. Please don't point guns at me.
I'll try.
I may have to point guns back. All right. Let's see.
What else?
So Marvel Snap. I think we've covered everything besides the fact that I played a whole lot more of Immortals of Avium, and I continue to say there is absolutely nothing wrong with that game. But I counterbalance that with the fact that there's also nothing just amazing about the game. Like, the entire time I'm playing, I'm like, I'm having a great time. This is really fun. But I'm not like, holy shit. And don't get me wrong, that's not too far from what I anticipated. What I was wrong on anticipating is that people wouldn't be more into that sense of it doesn't have to be the greatest thing ever. It just has to be fun and good. So I was a little surprised at the review scores. Definitely because, as I said, as you read them, I'm like, I don't see the score reflected in the wording, in my opinion. Yeah. Outside of it's not big enough for modern gaming, which I just but
that's the thing. It's not, because the goalposts have been moved in modern gaming.
Yeah, but problem. I mean, at the same time, it's just one of those things where, I mean, I'm pretty sure if a game like The Last of Us came out right now, it would still just be huge, because it's like,
yeah, but I think
it's a slightly unfair comparison, to be fair.
But it's kind of like what we were talking about the other week, which I would imagine has to sound a little trite, being like, oh, if this was on the PS2, it'd be fucking sick. But something like The Order 1886.
Context matters, yeah.
PS2 game, PS3 era game, that's $40 and it's a 10 out of 10. But $70 or $60 in
honestly,
2013.
The Order as a 2011 $60 PS3 exclusive, slays.
Yeah, probably. I still think it's a little short.
I'll be honest, man. I don't think that, definitely in that context, I don't think people are going to care.
Yeah. Either way.
But
speaking of exclusives, you want to talk about the one other game I played this week?
Yeah, you played some Starfield. I haven't played it at all, and I keep being asked by people if I'm going to play. So I'll go ahead and answer that question out here. I do intend to play Starfield. I just have zero clue when. I don't know how to fit it in.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Heard.
But yeah, I don't, like, I'm looking at games coming and I'm looking at what I'm playing. That's also, man, this has gotten oddly sexual. But yeah, I don't know where to slot that in. That didn't help either.
You got phrasing, as Archer would say.
Right, yeah. Yes, phrasing. So yes, I will play it when I somehow find time to play it. I don't know when that's going to be. One of the weirdest things about that game, and I don't think this is a bad thing necessarily, but seeing people being like, yeah, I played it for 20 hours and beat it, and I'm in New Game Plus. And in my mind, I'm like, the game that's about thousands of planets and big exploration can be beaten maybe quicker than any Bethesda game.
Yeah, but what do you mean by beaten? You can beat Skyrim in like 4 hours.
I know.
So it's just
it's only shocking because that I've played for 20 hours comes with no other context for me. So I'm like, that feels oddly short for this thousands of planets.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, I don't even remember how many planets.
It's a lot of planets.
But it's like hundreds at least.
Having played it, I feel like, and I'm sure you know this inherently, but that's just not the type of game it is. You know, if this was a Last of Us in space kind of thing, yeah, sure, that might be fast, I guess, but actually, that would probably be long. But
I was about to say, I've seen 20, 24, 28. I mean, yeah, I will be on record right now saying that The Last of Us Part 2 is probably 6 hours longer than it needs to be at minimum.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is like, I can beat
I love the
Fallout.
game.
I can beat Fallout 3 in probably an hour and a half, right?
You can beat New Vegas even quicker.
Yeah. It's very quick.
Now, but what I really mean by that is first time playing. That seems oddly short. Because my first time playing Oblivion, I played over 100 hours and never even beat it.
Well, yeah, but again, it's
and then the first time playing Skyrim, I played 120 hours before I beat it. So, but I know the point of those games. It's just when the only context I have is from old games that are significantly smaller. Something about 20 hours feels like when people were surprised that, like, Cyberpunk, for example, you can beat the Cyberpunk main story in like 16 hours.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think in terms of that, people were rushing main quests only because a lot of the people playing the game early were like, play the main quest first. It opens up after the main quest. So you spend your first 20 hours beating the main quest because that's what Pete Hines told you to do, and fucking Greg Miller is telling you to do that, right? So you beat it, and then you do all this stuff. I've played probably 12 hours, and I don't even know if I'm past the first act. You know, so it's just how you interact with Bethesda games. I see quests, I do quests. That's, you know.
What I thought was weird, again, contextless as much as I can really be. I did hear Greg say that, or I saw that he said that. People were talking about it on the social media platform formerly known as X. I didn't see that Pete Hines said it, but I've seen the conversation going around, and that seems weird to me too, because you can literally, as soon as you're out of the Helgen, you're done.
Right.
Like, in terms of Skyrim, the entire game's there. You can go to the Thieves Guild. You can go to every guild in the game. You can do the Dark Brotherhood as long as you just go to the city and start hearing the rumors. Like, that game is not tied to progression in any real sense. Nor is Oblivion, nor is Morrowind, nor do I feel like Fallout New Vegas or 3 are. So when I heard that, I was like, did Bethesda switch up their thing to where they progress lock your ability to see certain things? And I tried to think back to Fallout 4, and I just I don't want to start a big conversation after we've already talked a bit about Fallout 4, but, you know, Fallout 4 is a game that could not draw me to do any of its side content. I thought it was all very boring on the surface level of what was immediately offered. it could have gotten better with each one, but the first couple of missions of each of the whatever you want to call them factions was not enough to keep me in. So I was curious on this one.
How do you and it doesn't have to be about Fallout 4, it can be about Bethesda in general, because I think the thing to take away with Starfield is it's a Bethesda game.
Sure. But I figured, is it that you're locked into certain solar systems until you do certain things? So why does the game open up after you play through the main campaign? I guess that's to imagine.
Here's the thing: you have a spaceship, right? And my spaceship is very basic. And I think in a lot of ways, like other Bethesda games do gate you. They just don't gate you in the same way as other games, right? You can sneak around the death claws that are there in certain places to lock you out of content. You know, you're not supposed to go to certain spots because the enemies are leveled up to a point where they're blocking you out. But because of the nature of that world, you could skip that whole thing. That's how you beat Fallout 3 quick, is you just go straight to Rivet City and then you go straight to the monument and it's all there. So this is Bethesda to the core. So I think if it depends on how you engage with it, right? So especially in Starfield, certain areas are going to be very difficult to play through. I have one mission right now. I'm level 11, and every time I take my ship in there, I die because I'm not ready to do it yet. So I think one of the things that may open the game up for you is the game is opened up because your ship is upgraded. You have better guns because you've beaten the game. Yeah. You have better perks. You have all this stuff. So that's what I'm taking from it, because I'm doing it the same way I've done everything. You know, me and Blake have been going back and forth on Discord about it a lot. And he was like, go do this quest. And I was like, okay. And I just went and found it. You know, it's a side quest. He's like, okay, this is dope. I think it's kind of one of those things where you beat it, you go into New Game Plus with all your upgrades and better stuff, and that's when you explore the world, because everything's going to be easier for you.
So New Game Plus is already a good difference for a Bethesda game. I can't think of a previous Bethesda game that had a New Game Plus. So that's
I can't either.
Pretty interesting. So I guess real quick, since we're already on the topic of Starfield and being here, one of the big points of conversation is that it's not doing space exploration right. And then the other flip side of that is, why did you expect that from this game? And as we've clearly said, like the first time they showed gameplay, I said it looked eerily close to No Man's Sky. And even now, sometimes I'm like, that looks eerily close to No Man's Sky. But clearly they are two different games. So with what you've been playing and with the context of actually playing the game, while also kind of understanding the flip side argument to some degree, because I think you're smart enough to go, well, yeah, people who wanted these things are not wrong for saying that they kind of thought that this is what they were going to be getting. But now you're also playing it, and you know the context and how they chose to go about traversing planets and breaking, you know, atmosphere and all that stuff, or where they chose to allow or not allow, and how they interacted with it. So do you think that's being blown up? Do you think there's some reasonable concern within there? Would you have preferred it to be more like a No Man's Sky? You can break atmosphere, land, and go about your business, or do you not think it really matters?
I don't think it matters. And I don't think I would have wanted. I didn't. It's not like I liked No Man's Sky all that much.
I know. Yeah, that's why I was curious how you felt about it.
Well, and all I'm saying is that it's not. You know, it's playing No Man's Sky it's a different experience. First of all, I haven't played it since vanilla. Like vanilla No Man's Sky is the last time I played that.
Considerably different now.
Yeah. But in terms of that, like, okay, yeah, launching into space was really cool. And the first 20 times I was like, this is the coolest shit of all time. But then you drop down on a planet, you do all this stuff, and you're like, God damn it. And I got to go fly around, and it's 50,000 meters to the next planet. And, you know, and Starfield doesn't have that problem. You get straight into the action. And the way I see the space travel is, you know how in movies they'll have the actors in a car, right? And the car will be on a set that's made to look like a road, and then there's a painting of a road behind them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how space feels in Starfield, but the action is still happening in front of me. You know, it's kind of like I have to choose the next scene of Pluto, if that makes sense, right? Like I have to be like, I'm going to go watch this scene, and then I'm going, this is the backdrop for whatever action happens here, whether that's fighting spaceships or finding resources or another spaceship hailing you and having a conversation with them, or boarding a pirate ship, or being a pirate and boarding another ship. Those things all happen against the backdrop of space, right?
Okay. Yeah.
If that makes sense. But I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
the problem is that Todd Howard said freedom to explore space. You can go to any planet. So while the game I got, I'm satisfied with, and I'm really glad it's not what I took from his words.
Sure.
Because what I took from his words sounded tedious. And what as actually in that game is, your quest is on Pluto. We're going to show you this really cool loading screen when you're going to get to Pluto. That's really what it is. A really cool loading screen.
The way that I ended up, the way I ended up, just like when someone else described to me kind of how it works.
Yeah.
So I've still not visually seen it, but I had a friend who's been playing it who talked to me a little bit about it. And my immediate thought was, and Chris, I know you don't really have the context for this, maybe a little bit because you did try to play Kingdom Hearts. But it feels like basically the gummy ship worlds, where it's like, well, here's a planet, so we're going to tell you that you're going to that planet, and you're going to go to you're going to go to your ship, and you're going to fight stuff on the way to the planet, and then you're going to load into the planet when you get there, and it's all going to be segmented and sectioned off. It's more akin to like Kingdom Hearts 3, where here's a planet, or here's a world, and you're going to fly between them, and you just freely fly within this semi-open area that's meant to feel like open space before you just get to where you're going and you're done.
I'm gonna put it, you could be right, but since only extreme weeb nerds understand what you're talking about, I'll put it into mainstream context, right? And you'll understand.
Yes, sure, please normify it for us.
For the normies out there, Starfield space exploration is calling a cab in GTA, getting in the cab, letting it go for a little bit, and like kind of looking around, and maybe something happens, and then skipping the rest of the ride. That's how the best way I would describe it. You go out there, there's a little bit of stuff you can do, but it's not really all that important. Caveat of yet. And then you can just go to another planet. And I'm fairly sure at this point in the game, I could have never actually engaged with spaceflight.
Okay. So all you did was just West-a-boot it.
I did some space stuff.
I weeabooed it. You West-a-boot it.
I did. And normie.
So that's only for you extreme West-a-boos who really like Western games.
Mine's for, yours is for like YouTube and TikTok. Mine's for like Rumble and YouTube Shorts.
There you go.
But yeah. All of this to say is that Starfield's fantastic. Like it really is good. But again, it's what you take a fantastic, because I think its Metacritic score is probably right around an 85. I'm not done with it, but I really like it. And Brett, this might be interesting for you. You're a little bit different than me, but the thing I appreciate most from Starfield, and this is going to sound really stupid, is that I don't give a shit about achievements or trophies in it, and it's nice to just kind of play a game.
Have I told you?
I haven't even looked at the achievements because I don't give a fuck. I'm playing it on PC.
Hear me out, Chris. You can do that same thing on PlayStation, and then decide to trophy, and then decide to platinum it.
First of all, you waste time and lose out on platinums you could have if you just.
That might be the
I'm
case,
not even
but it's
telling you
better
to
just play the
follow.
game.
I'm not even telling you to follow a walkthrough. I'm telling you to go Horizon Forbidden West trophy guide, missable trophies. Oh, if I don't scan the last fight, I will miss this trophy. And then and then you close your computer and you play the whole game, but in the back of your head you go, I need to make sure I scan that one thing or I'm going to miss the platinum. And then you have the platinum, regardless of the fact.
But then I have unnecessary context that tells me that whatever's happening at the end is happening so quick and is so specific that I never get to do it again. And then suddenly that taints certain parts of the expectation of what's to come from the game. You know what I mean?
Brett, I'm calling you on your bullshit because you openly spoiled the ending of Twisted Metal just by being like, it was what it was building up from the trailers. So you know what? The fact that you have to take a picture of a robot at the end of the game is not a fucking spoiler to you, okay?
I didn't say it was a spoiler. I said for me, it hampers my anticipation throughout the game.
Because it spoils something at the end of the game.
No, because I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a sense of the type of happening at the end.
Yeah, I'm just fucking with you. I get
to your point, it's still the same.
It's the same.
But yeah.
No, but the thing is, like, I would skip a lot of games that were exclusive to Xbox or even Switch because I'm like, I'd rather play on PlayStation because I want to earn the trophies. And it's nice to just be like, I just want to play Starfield, you know? Just like I just want to play Baldur's Gate. I really want the Baldur's Gate 3 Platinum, but I also just want to play Baldur's Gate.
Like, I'm having a great time with the game. The Platinum has not even entered my head. I haven't even thought about a single trophy, nor do I think I've earned a single trophy that wasn't related. Actually, I don't think I've earned a single trophy at all.
You did earn one. You should have earned one. Because once getting off, ending the tutorial is a trophy.
Oh, okay.
Either way,
I guess it happened.
I appreciate that. I just don't have it. If I'm playing and I'm very much like I have a 27% completion rate, so it doesn't stop me from playing games.
Sure.
But in the back of my head, I'm like, I could get the platinum in this. I could get the Armored Core 6 platinum. Maybe
you could.
I could.
If you do, I'll applaud you because you have a bunch of From Software plats at that point.
That would be third, yeah. Either way,
wouldn't be too bad.
I do really appreciate that it's just let me kind of enjoy games.
Well, a quick talk because I know that there's an online version of it, but this podcast is me and you talking, and then everyone else is getting to listen in on that. So, in the effort of that and not worrying about what the rest of the internet's talking about or why, and not really even worrying about that if we're feeding into that or not, this is just something I find curious. So Skyrim sits at a 96 on Metacritic. Oblivion sits at a 94, if I'm not mistaken, and Morrowind sits at an 89. Fallout 4 and Starfield now are two games in a row from the same team that both sit at an 87, if I'm not mistaken. Why do you feel like that is? Because and I think I have the answer, and I think it's an interesting one because talking to people about the positives and negatives of Starfield, or at least seeing people have those conversations and then chiming in just with my own opinion without the context of having played the game. But that's to make very specific games that no one else in the industry makes. But that doesn't mean that the industry hasn't caught up to certain aspects of their games. And I think that that's starting to catch Bethesda. And I think that that's why you're seeing games like Fallout 4 and Starfield still sell incredibly well, which is all that Bethesda is truly worried about. It's all that Microsoft's worried about now that they're the owner. But it's got to hurt a little bit to come off of a series of 90s or almost 90s and continue to build this wave of success until you hit Skyrim, which is your highest reviewed game ever. And then slowly start seeing that fall back down. And I think it's primarily because Skyrim was a PS3, it was their last PS3 game, right? And on PS3, nothing touched Skyrim. Nothing touched any Bethesda game in terms of scale of the open world. And to the style that it is, because like the other game that probably got close to touching that in some degree, in some capacity, was something like a Red Dead or a Grand Theft Auto 4. But they're such different worlds that if you like high fantasy and you like big RPGs, this is something very different. I don't consider either of Rockstar's games that I just mentioned to be RPGs. I
No.
view them more as sandbox games. So
Yes.
if you want big, expansive open world RPGs, you had to go to Bethesda. And I think that some of their shortcomings were more forgiven because of the fact that nowhere else in the industry could you find that. And I think the PS4 gen skewed that so hard because suddenly all sorts of RPGs were massive. You get games like The Witcher 3 that come in and knock everyone off like, holy shit, people can do this at this level. And it's not just
Agreed.
Bethesda in the RPG game. And so I think it's unfortunate that Starfield is supposed to be their big watershed moment, this big new IP. And yet, in a way, it's one of their poorer performing games. Not that it's performed badly in by any capacity in a review thing. So do you think that you kind of agree with that? Or do you think there's something else in the water that's kind of leaning it towards that? I guess what I'm saying, do you think that there's any bit of it that's actually fueled in the macro of how Metacritic works? Do you think any of its downtrodden points has anything to actually do with being owned by Microsoft now?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I guess the answer is no. Like, I don't think that's the case.
I don't think it is either, because this is scoring right alongside Fallout 4, and that was well before purchasing was in anyone's mind.
I think the only thing I really disagree with you about is that I don't think anyone makes Bethesda-style open-world RPGs.
Oh, you still don't. But other developers at least make big, thoughtful RPGs that have a lot of deep systems, and the delta is not as big as it once was.
I don't know. I mean, sure. Like, I guess in a fundamental way, you're right. But I don't think there's a single game in the industry outside of Skyrim that comes close to Starfield in terms of what it's doing. In terms of big world, instead of in terms of RPG, sure, there's other RPGs, there's other big worlds, but the specific stuff that people are willing to forgive, and we're willing to forgive in Skyrim, and we're willing to forgive in Fallout, and New Vegas, and their past games, come with the territory of Bethesda games. Right. And I think that's one of the things that affects Skyrim. And I think that's one of the things that's going to affect games criticism in general. I truly believe that you and I are not going to connect with critics in the next 10 years.
That's
and
fair.
I think here's the thing is we are only just now seeing a new generation of gamers, right? For all intents and purposes, like we're too young to sit here and say we were alive for all of it, right? Because even though outside of like Pong, right, we were living, in the world for all of video games. I didn't start playing games till I was like in my teens, right? So I missed SNES, NES, Genesis, really all of that stuff outside of the secondhand going to my cousin's house. So I saw where it came from, right? In 10 years, a kid who grew up on Fortnite is gonna give fucking Fallout 6 a 7.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
And that's but think about it, right? It's kind of the same thing you see with politicians, right? Where a lot of the stuff people say is like the boomers have to die out before things change. Whether that's true or not is your prerogative, but you hear that, right? One generation has to go away for what the new generation believes in to really take hold. Right? Because Nancy Pelosi is being wheeled into the Senate and Mitch McConnell is Bethesda glitching in front of Congress. Right? And I think that goes with the territory for games criticism. And I think that's really what's happened with Starfield.
I think Mitch McConnell may have just landed on my roof. I heard a big thud when you called his name. I think you've summoned him.
I've summoned Mitch McConnell.
But no, I get what you mean. Because like going back to your thing, like, you're saying like you weren't there for it all. But one thing I think is fair is that the age that you started gaming was right around the time where the online, and that's where games media is online now, and it wasn't always, right? Before, it was driven to magazines and areas that you had to be far more into gaming to want to take that extra dive to even see what critics had to say about games. And then over time, that got a little easier, right? Okay, well, if you have TV and you have something that has G4, bam, now you can hear people talk about games on G4. It's still very specific games, probably only the biggest ones, but here you are, you have G4. And then internet becomes far easier, and broadband makes it easier for people to do it without having to disconnect, so on and so forth. And you hit this point where now, 2008, online is real easy to get into. People are getting really into, 2006 even, you could say, people are getting into reviewing games online. IGN's online sector is starting to blow up. And games media suddenly is still printed, but it's rapidly shifting to online like we are today. We've been alive for all of that. And the people that we looked up to for all of that were older than us by 7 to 10 years, and they're going to get to a point where in 10 years they may not be in the industry at all anymore. They may be retiring, or even if they don't completely retire out, there's going to be the new guard. Regardless of if you want it to happen or anything, there will be the new guard. There will be new people, which you also saw a new wave to some degree come in with YouTube, allowing anybody to do it. And you have a new guard that's kind of there, but it's not necessarily replacing. So I don't think anything's going to replace necessarily, but I think the new guard will eventually hit a point where they're so loud and they're so much more intact with the more active part of the gaming industry that it becomes a thing of like, yeah, we're not going to agree with the vast majority of the voice of the critic, or at least there's a decent chance that we won't be in touch with what the critics are saying. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah,
but
it's just
to push back on something real quick that you said that you don't think that anyone's still making a game like Bethesda, and that you score these games and you forgive the things that are Bethesda like because no one does it. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I still more or less agree with you. But then I think that there's a really big question that has to be asked. Why were they more forgiving of it then for a game like Skyrim on PS3, a game that was notoriously broken for so many people, even more so than you've seen with any game since from them, more or less, maybe not Fallout 76. But the point being there is, why were they so much more forgiving of it back then than they are now? And what is the difference? And that's why I was saying, I think it's because that delta has shrunk and other people have made massive worlds. And so they can point to that massive world and go, this does massive worlds a bit better than this does. And then someone else can go, this does weird physics and character interactions better than this does, but it doesn't have a big world. And so what's happening is each developer is clinging in on the one thing and being like, this has been outpaced somewhere else. But no developer can deny the fact that no other game has taken all of these moving parts and put them together as effectively as this, even if other games have done individual aspects better. And I still think that's shifted. I just think that it's back when Skyrim came out, less games had done less things like Bethesda in any aspect, that you had to forgive them because it was like they're pioneering. And to some degree, I can't say, having not played the game, but I don't think Bethesda's pioneering right now, because the rise of indie games and people being able to make games on their own means that a game like No Man's Sky can come out and make you go, holy shit, I've never seen a game of this scale. And it's an inherently different game than Starfield, but it's much larger. And so that impacts the way that you look at Starfield. If Starfield releases before No Man's Sky, all these comparisons are gone.
Well, yes, that's fair.
Because what other game has been universe trotting? You haven't.
I think. I guess in the end, I don't necessarily agree with you. I think the thing is this, right? A kid who grew up on Skyrim is not going to find Starfield as impressive because they grew up on that, versus a person who grew up on Super Mario 1 playing Skyrim. So that could be an explanation for it right there. But I think the thing is, even if you did come from the beginning, right? We've played Fallout 3. We've played Fallout New Vegas. Played all the Fallout DLC. Played all the Skyrim DLC. Played Skyrim. Played Fallout 4. Some of you may have dabbled in Fallout 76. So in the end, yes, the delta may be shrinking, but I think the delta of how impressive what Bethesda can do is what's shrinking, because we've seen it 6 times. right? And for a lot of people who are
and significantly
wrong,
farther apart.
somebody else did it better, right?
Yeah.
Those
Is
people
that
are
not what I just said?
incorrect because New Vegas is not better than Fallout 3. But what I'm
One
saying is,
specific aspect of it is
which is what?
writing characters.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where we've seen it so many times that Starfield's not impressive, but if
I
Starfield
get
swapped places with Skyrim, Starfield would be the 10-year game, Skyrim would be the 87. It's just
no, I
timing.
get
And it's
what you
just how
mean,
much
but
many times we've seen it.
does that timing not also play into the industry though? I mean, because yeah, you're right. Timing. You're trying to say that it's a known quantity, and so the known
Yes.
quantity aspect is means that each time you see it, it loses just a little bit more of its luster until it becomes like, well, it's good, but it's not blowing me away anymore.
It's not new.
Yeah, and I get that.
It's
But I don't really, but I think that still speaks into my argument. When everybody else does some of these aspects, each one of these aspects is getting a little bit of its luster taken away because other games are doing it. And the awe of it all is just kind of piece by piece being shrunk. So even when you have it all together in a single game, it pulls back just a hair.
Look, we can argue about this all day.
Clearly, which is funny because I think we're arguing over the same thing. I'll be honest with you.
Because my thing is, if I said to someone, if you like Fallout 4, you'll like Starfield, they would like Starfield. If I said to someone, if you liked Witcher 3, you'd like Starfield, it's not 1-to-1. That's all I'm kind of saying.
Sure.
It's very specific. Bethesda is specific. Yeah. Regardless of the fact, I just think it's a matter of seen game, played game. Speaking of the old guard of IGN, I don't know if you remember Ty Root. He was on a bunch of old IGN podcasts. And this is when, IGN was more fun. And he used to say, behind every attractive woman is a man tired of sleeping with her. He used to say that way less clean than I just said it. But it would translate to the same thing in video games, right? Same thing in movies. I've stopped seeing Marvel movies and I've stopped buying every Call of Duty. So I got tired of sleeping with it. You know what I mean? I think Starfield's the same way. In my opinion.
I could see that.
But
because I will say
awesome.
my desire for Starfield, at least from an outside similar perspective as Skyrim leading up to it, right? Like it's about to be here. My level of hype for Starfield is like I want to play it, but I don't need to play it.
Can I ask you
know what I mean?
question?
Yeah.
To feed into the fanboy war, not on purpose. Sure. If Starfield was on PlayStation, would you be playing it today?
Nope.
Okay.
I can say that with absolute certainty. and I'd run into the same problem. Half of it's just that this year's smacked, and that's a huge game, and I know it. And it's like, okay,
sure,
I don't want to play that right now. And I've had a problem with huge games all year. But also just nothing about it. Like I've seen everything it's doing done elsewhere, which is kind of my point. Not all at once, but I've seen it all done elsewhere. And so I think if you show me Starfield, like I said, before No Man's Sky and before Elite Dangerous and before The Outer Worlds, before a bunch of different games that have similarities with it, then I can maybe be like, okay, I need to play this, but I'm not feeling it here. I want to play it, and if I can find a way to reasonably make time to play it, I'm good. But half of that comes off the back of Fallout 4 not clicking with me as much as it should have, or at least as much as I felt it should have. So part of it's that my Bethesda love is broken to some degree. Fallout 76 didn't help. I don't think it's a terrible game, but I also don't think it restored any of my faith in them as a developer.
No.
So
I mean, look, we agree in a lot of ways. I think Starfield is an excellent game. I would not be surprised if my top 3 this year are Sea of Stars, Starfield, and Baldur's Gate 3, because that's what it is right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's a good year for games. It's just which ones do you make time for? And I think everyone's list changes based off of what they made time for.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But, we'll get to moving on. Let's jump into the community's take real quick. If you're new to the show, the community's take is where at the end of every episode, we ask a question that comes either from something our listeners asked us or something we talked about throughout the episode, or just something in general related to gaming that we want to hear your thoughts on, give you an avenue, an opportunity, a platform to let us hear your thoughts and maybe change our perspective or show us and tell us something that we didn't know. So this one came courtesy of Jehudi MD. Last week he asked us if we put any games on a pedestal and then compared other games against them per genre. And so we narrowed it down just a hair. What is one genre and one game within that genre that you put on a pedestal and compare all other games within that genre against? The example I gave, The Witcher 3 is what you may compare all other Western RPGs against. And we had a lot of different answers with a lot of different genres. So I was really glad to kind of separate them off like that. So the first one comes from Yuna, and they say, for me, Trails always is my take for JRPGs to stand up against just due to its world building that's involved with it. So, and I get that, right? So the one thing that's important to them is specifically world building, and they look and they try and go up against that. And Chris, one thing I really like about this question is that this really shows who's a pessimist and who's an optimist, in my opinion. Because I could see someone saying, well, why would you put a game on a pedestal and then pit other games against it? That's unfair. And it's only going to make you not like a game as much. And I do not view it that way at all. I think putting a game on a pedestal and then comparing other things to it means that you compare other things to it in the hope that you get something to knock that game off of its pedestal and have a new thing going so that you go, holy crap, I thought nothing could be better than this. And then this came along and just knocked it out of the park. And I'm even more excited now because it did this, or this better. And I love that because I just think it's one more game to the stack of great games you've played. I don't think that that's a pessimistic view at all. So I don't know. Where are you at? Do you think that it makes you negative to compare a game to something? Oh, you're muted.
No, I do not think it makes you negative to compare the game to something. That's all anyone does.
We compare all things to all things. That's what we as creatures do.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like the point of this whole thing.
I guess.
Like,
this pizza is better than this pizza to me.
Like,
and it's the same thing, right? When you love a pizza and you're like, man, I kind of put all pizzas against Joe's Pizza because Joe's Pizza smacks. And then you go to a place and you're like, holy shit, this pizza was better than Joe's. You're like, it makes you that much more hype. You're like, I never thought it could have been done, but here we are. The pizza pantheon has grown another larger. All right, we got another answer here from Sweet Gran Turismo Jones. He says, easy for me. And in case the name didn't give it away, he says, racing and Gran Turismo. GT is at the top of all racing games. Dirt Rally 2.0 for rally games, Wreckfest for derby games, Ride 5 for motorcycle racers, and Drive Club for arcade. The rest can stuff it. So he went overall genre and then specific side genres and gave you a point of each one, but GT still tops the list. I vibe with this one a lot because I do think Gran Turismo is like very top tier racing. He's right though. Drive Club for arcade is really up there, and I know that a lot of people disagree with me on this, and Blake is one of them. But half of the reason I can't ever get into Forza Horizon, I don't think it feels as good as Drive Club or Need for Speed. So every year I play them and I try and I play for about 15 hours and I'm like, it doesn't feel right. And I don't really care for the way this feels. I'm going to move on. So it happens.
Fair enough. It does happen.
He answered late, but I would be remiss to not give the answer of the person who asked the question. So Jehudi MD comes in. He says, mine is the newer Dooms, fluid first-person shooters, and the maneuverability of the character spot on. It's awesome of how you know where your character will land versus other FPSs where it's a guessing game sometimes. Couple that with awesome first-person gameplay, and you have your secret sauce right there. I can't say that there's anything wrong with that.
I agree.
I would also say FPS is such a bloated is not the right word. It's a dense genre with a lot of different styles. We were talking about earlier being spoiled for choice on the soundtracks. I think the FPS genre is spoiled for choice about certain games doing certain things really well.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I mean, the de facto Call of Duty, there's a reason that Call of Duty is so popular. It does feel good. It doesn't matter even if you don't like the game that much, you can play for a couple minutes, but it does feel good. I mean, this is on point shooting.
Yeah, I had a joke.
Oh,
I had a joke come to my mind. I'm like, I can't say it, but it's funny. Sorry to the internet.
oh, you just you're blue ball in the audience, Chris.
That was what the joke was about.
Shooting blue balls.
Exactly.
All right, let's see. We've got Savoy Prime coming in. He says Ghost of Tsushima is currently the bar that all other open world games are held to for me. The cinematography, voice work, animations, the narrative, writing, the look of the world, everything was just handled with so much care and attention. Sucker Punch Productions really nailed it. Honestly, great choice. Of all of the Assassin's Creed style games that have taken that type of idea and expanded on it, I think Ghost of Tsushima has been the most effective. And I think it's really good. Chris, did you ever beat it?
No, I did not.
I didn't think so. So Chris clearly doesn't agree, but he doesn't inherently disagree, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't necessarily dislike Ghost of Tsushima. I just didn't finish it. That's all.
Yeah. We got two more here. A one-armed wolf, one of our patrons, says, I'm sure it's no surprise, but the game I now compare all other third-person melee action or Souls-likes to is Sekiro. Everything about the game is exceptional, from combat to the story to the world you traverse.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, Chris has got you back. And the last one here comes from Velvet Thunder, another one of our patrons, and the namesake behind the Velvet Corner, which we will get to eventually. He says, I don't have one, but I think Street Fighter 6 should be the benchmark to which all future fighting games need to reach in terms of content, options, and accessibility. Well, it sounds like you have one there, Velvet.
It does. Sounds like exactly what the question was.
So it sounds like fighting game, Street Fighter 6. Bam, you got it. It's okay. You can be a little coy. You can be a little coy in the koi pond. Go ahead and we're going to go ahead and go into the news, Chris. You okay with that?
Let's do it.
All right. If you guys want to be part of the community stake, remember you can find us on social media over on X or formerly Twitter at Triangle SQRD. You can find us in a Facebook group, which most of you don't these days. I guess everybody just abandoned the Facebook, but that's okay. And a group called Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. We did get one person who asked us a question over there today. Or you can find us in my favorite spot, which is the Discord, which is always linked below, whether you're watching this on video or if you're listening to this on podcast service. You can click down in the description and find the link to the Discord. Jump in and find me and Chris, as well as a bunch of our other listeners. We'd love to have you there. But the first piece of news is actually in regards to Final Fantasy 16. So Square have announced that Final Fantasy 16 has 2 DLCs in the works, and they teased that the PC version is on the way. It's coming. They have finally confirmed that it's going to come after all the back and forth talk of if you want to play the game, buy a PS5, which is not inherently wrong of them to say. I kind of get it. I mean, we're making the game for PS5. If you want to play it right now, all I can tell you is buy a PS5.
I mean, facts, though.
I mean, it does have a little bit of that. Well, we have a product for those people, and it's called the Xbox 360. I know it kind of has that feel to it. I don't think it's as bad.
It's definitely not as bad because he's not talking to soldiers in Afghanistan.
Well, and he's also he's just saying this is the game and this is the game we're making it for. That's it.
Yeah.
Like this is the system we're making it for. It's nothing more than that. He's just
That
saying,
quote
yeah, if you want to play
always
the
just
game,
kills me because it was what, Phil Harrison who said that?
Yeah,
And
no, it wasn't Phil Harrison.
it was the guy who almost killed Zynga too.
Why did you do this to me? I know his name, Don Matrick.
Don Matrick, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that one because he was saying it in response to a soldier who's like, I can't get on the internet. He's like, cool, buy a 360. Okay.
Yeah, bold move. And you know what's worse is that was at that point. Do you remember that was at the year where like the last 3 years of PS3, Sony went ham and had tons of incredible exclusives and like swan songs for studios and stuff.
Yeah.
And by 2013, Microsoft was just kind of like, yeah, fuck the 360. Like we haven't put out an exclusive game since Halo 4. It's just like, well, we don't care. And Halo 4 was like the last one in a while. So it was a real funny situation to be in, but yeah, what a sentence to say. That is followed, though, that piece of news by a question from Savoy Prime, who says, do you think the announcement of the PC version of Final Fantasy 16 being in the works came sooner than expected due to Square Enix whining about the, quote, low console sales. I don't think so. I think that was. I think Square is known for smoking crack. If you're a crackhead, I mean, sorry, I don't know what you're doing listening to this show, but I hope that you get help. So if that offended you, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, Square is on one all the time. We know that that's how it is. That is, they always think everything undersells. But if you actually look at a lot of the news, I think that was blown up by the media cycle to try and get attention and stir stuff up, because there has been just as many times where Square has said that given the install rate of the PlayStation 5 and the time and of it, the time in its life cycle where it's at, that the number of sales matched what they were reasonably expecting and that they should expect given the sales numbers. So I don't know what to do with that information other than say, the media is always against you, the person who consumes the news, because they're trying to find a way to rile you up. Square is also stupid, and I know that, and I've seen plenty of times where on paper Square's like, yeah, this game didn't sell enough. Well, it sold 10 million copies. Not enough. So I get it. I don't think that's why it came. I think that it's just one of those things where it's not an official announcement. This was kind of off the cuff. I don't think that there's probably much keeping them from being able to say, yeah, we're working on a PC version. In no way did they tell you a date and anticipation. Nothing that would stop anybody who was going to reasonably buy it on PS5 anytime soon from buying it on PS5. I just think that they were already talking about the game, talking about the DLC, and they're like, oh, by the way, while we're working on DLC, we're also starting work on the PC port.
Facts. Exactly.
So...
because I think the rest of that quote like, buy a PS5 because we haven't even started, basically.
That was, yeah, the original quote was, yeah, we've been making it for PS5 and exclusively for PS5, which has allowed us quicker development time and quicker iteration time. So that's what we're focused on. If you want to play the game right now, you're going to buy a PS5.
Yeah.
And he basically said a PC version. Even back then, it was kind of like, I think it was strongly beating around the bush that a PC version would eventually come. It's just, yeah, that's not what we're being paid to do. So we're taking advantage of that. We're taking advantage of being only having to develop for one console, which is what I would do as a developer in a heartbeat. If I was a developer and Square was like, hey guys, PlayStation paid us and we're just going to make this exclusively for PS5, I'd be like, fuck yes. Some other team, or at least after we're done, we can worry about making a PC port or whatever port is going to come, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
What are your thoughts? Do you think this game will ever hit Xbox?
Ever?
Yeah, that's strong wording. Final Fantasy VII still not being on Xbox has me thinking the answer is no.
My answer is, at the current structure of the industry, yes.
That's a fair point. I could see it either way. I'm still erring on the side of I don't think so, just because I still think if that were something Square was really genuinely interested in do, and if it was something that PlayStation was interested in letting Square do, we would have already gotten Final Fantasy VII. But
I don't disagree. The problem with your question is you said ever.
Ever is a strong word, yeah.
Because I didn't
say will it come as a remaster on the Xbox 720 that never came out.
Well, but here's the thing. Supposedly,
what if the next Xbox is called 720?
That would be very funny.
Go ahead.
It should just be called 360 again because they went full circle. Yep.
The Xbox Full Circle would be an even better name.
Would be an even better name. It just looks like a 360 and it has the blades. Shit, what was I going to say? What were we talking about?
Final Fantasy 16 ever coming.
Because I think yes, because apparently there was a leak about the new Switch and Final Fantasy VII Remake is supposedly a launch title for it. So, and
I'll believe that when I see it.
And to be fair, Sony doesn't seem to give a shit about Nintendo. They care about Xbox.
Yes, 100% true.
Yeah, that's all I have to say. Probably. Almost definitely in the current state of the industry.
Fair point. All right, let's keep going on. The next piece of news. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is being updated on PS5 to make the game run at a solid 60 frames per second when played in performance mode. Respawn reworked the mode to make the game run more consistently. Quality mode has also been changed to reduce FPS fluctuation. And add more visual improvements while the variable refresh rate is active on the console. So it does have VRR support for PS5 if you want to run that. And generally a more stable game with some more bug fixes in the work. That game had way more problems than just performance. I will just be the first to say that. I still think it was a good game, but it had issues, and I was frustrated often while playing it. Some of that frustration was because I refused to not play it on performance mode, because as I long held, if you ship a game with performance mode, it should not be wrong for me to expect to play the game in a reasonable state. I will continue. I will die on that hill. If you don't want performance mode because it's not consistent, don't ship it. Add it in a patch later. If they added performance mode now, I would have just waited. I would have never played it until they came out with this. Assuming that this even works. But, if we're going to take them in good faith, which I shouldn't, because good faith, they told me it was a performance mode that worked. So, yeah, this is good. And in the means of being able to save games and update them down the line, this is a good... The fact that EA is doing this when they abandon Anthem in many ways is actually a good sign. And then the fact that games get to be updated and saved, I think is good for games like Redfall that came out to less than stellar reviews. And actually, there was a quote from Pete Hines where he was saying that they're not going to abandon Redfall in that given time. It will be made into a game that's closer to what people expected from it quality-wise. So the good and the bad of all game updates is that games are more likely to ship broken, but studios are also more likely to fix them if they ship broken. Whereas at one point in time, if you shipped broken, you were done. That was it. That was the game. Yeah. I guess at worst, you just print a whole new batch of disc, which it's even more expensive. That would suck.
I kind of want to buy a hot coffee version of GTA San Andreas.
Oh, yeah, dude. Why the fuck not? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Let's just see it.
Can't believe they ever even... Ridiculous.
Well, now I can fuck a lizard in fucking Faerun, and back then I couldn't press square to fuck a person.
Gaming's come a long way, guys. I
God
can
bless
fuck a bear
Mass
now.
Effect.
Yeah, once you could fuck aliens, they were like, all gloves are off.
Right,
you can fuck a bear. Why not?
Well, fuck it.
You idiot. Next piece of news, PlayStation Portal, the device Sony fleshed out a bit last week, has now received a release date of November 15th. Pre-orders have started already via PlayStation Direct. So if the Portal seems like your cup of tea, your cup of tech rather, go over and pre-order it. This is not a situation where I will put my money where my mouth is, because the amount is too high and the use case is too little for me. But I'm a big fan of trying when it makes sense to spend money on something that you're unsure of. Speaking of which, I bought the Starfield Xbox case, or whatever you want to call it, Xbox cover, because part of me thinks it's going to make the system look cheaper because it's sitting on the outside, but part of me thinks there's a chance it does look better. So I spent the $50 on the risk that it makes my Xbox Series X look cooler. I have a strong feeling that I'm going to take it off because I'm going to prefer the more all-in-one integrated look of just the base system. But I would love to be proven wrong. So if you end up getting a PlayStation Portal, let me know if I'm wrong and that it's actually an awesome device.
Sounds good.
But also vindicate me if I'm correct. If it sucks, I want to hear, Brett was right, bro. That's all I'm looking for. Okay, guys. Next piece of news, Activision is going all 1984 on us. I think George Orwell just became their new CEO because they're adding an AI voice moderation. I guess he wouldn't, because his book was about warning against it. So who would be the person here?
Phil Spencer.
There we go. Phil Spencer. No, Activision's adding AI voice moderation to Modern Warfare 3 via ToxMod from Modulate. The aim of the software is to cut down on toxic voice chat usage. So the technology is currently in beta and will be available globally with the launch of Modern Warfare 3. This is a weird one, because I understand that anything you say, you have to be willing, and I use this, I say this at work all the time, don't say something if you're not willing to have someone hear you say it and tell someone else. That's the kind of nature of things. But this feels weird and invasive, and I know that it's supposed to be for the greater good, but I feel like most things that take away from what should be a reasonable expectation of freedom do so on the fact that it's going to make you feel better. Kind of like how, no, guys, we're just going to look through all of your emails and personal data and cell phones because somebody blew up the World Trade Center. I mean, I don't really like the trade. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd rather... I'd say what you will, but that's my take on it. And it's kind of like... I don't talk about work much, and I'm not going to talk about it in a real sense. But I was with a customer the other day, and they were talking about how someone wanted them to get a camera in the bathroom because they had someone fall in the bathroom, and they think it was someone just trying to fall and get money. And so the person's like, "We need to put a camera in the bathroom." And they were trying to seriously, like, not my customer, who thankfully has the power to stop that, but the rest of the people were like, "Yeah." And I was like, do people have zero expectation of not being under surveillance state at all times? That's fucking weird.
Right.
And I know that I'm somebody who a lot of hours of me is on the internet and I volunteer it, but I volunteer it. That's the fucking difference.
Yeah.
That is weird as shit. And this is weird as shit. If I'm being honest, I do not think that an AI should be listening to you so that it can report you just because you said something that it didn't like. Who determines what's something that shouldn't be said?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this shit, just like I don't like being able to report people in private party chats. That's fucking weird.
It is weird.
Just don't talk to them. If you don't like what that person says, move the fuck on.
Yeah. It's like that Tyler, the Creator tweet. How is cyberbullying real? Just close the screen.
Yeah. No joke, though. How?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can try and say, well, you can just walk away. Those are very different ramifications. I mean, regardless, this is weird. I don't think anybody should be applauding this, but this is apparently where the industry is going. I don't like it. We can move on, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
It's good that I don't really play a lot of multiplayer games because this is fucking gross.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's not even about like the people playing Call of Duty yelling the N-word and saying like Heil Hitler or something stupid like that and making people feel unsafe. It doesn't matter
what I'm saying. No one should
me
hear
and you having a private conversation about my girlfriend, and fucking the AI is like, oh, he said she's being a bitch, banned. Like, you know what I mean? We can have everyone else muted. It doesn't matter. And even there's a record of that somewhere. You know?
That's my bigger problem. I don't care because, like, you know, there's the part of me that, like, in our bedroom we have a Google Home, and I am a little iffy on it. We only have it in the bedroom because we don't really spend any time in our bedroom besides sleeping and doing the adult stuff. I mean, I have a child, so that much is kind of clear.
You've done it one time.
The joke ratioed. No, the joke. 1-0, still 1-0, Chris.
God damn it.
So the joke I used to make is like, and no, I've never been comfortable with it, but like my weird way of being like relatively okay with it, because I use it as an alarm clock, which is very useful.
Me too.
Is that since I'm never really in there and nothing's really ever said in there, it's like if they want to hear me banging my wife, that's their business. I mean, like, it's still gross though, if I'm being honest. But like, I don't like having them anywhere else in the house. And I know people say, "Well, your phone's on you." Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't like it anywhere. It's a gross idea, no matter where it's coming from.
What is going on with you this episode, dude?
Listen, man, I'm thirsty. I mean that literally. I actually am very thirsty. I need to get a drink.
Fucking water, dude.
Drink some Gatorade. I need the electrolytes for performance.
For the
otherwise, I'm gonna dip some frame rate. You know, I'm gonna drop a few frames.
Okay, Jedi Survivor.
So yeah, we can move on from that unless you have something else you want to say. But yeah, surveillance sucks.
Listen, thank God Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2, this did not exist. And I know that's like a meme wild? And it's a joke, but seriously.
Hear me out, Chris.
Yeah.
Hear me out, Chris. Do you remember almost exactly 10 years ago?
Uh-huh.
Nate Fox from Sucker Punch came out. Nate Fox from Sucker Punch came out on stage at the PS3 reveal event in February. So it's been 10 years and some odd months. And he started talking about the police state in this world in which cameras were seeing everything and monitoring people, and the worries that caused, and how they were using those cameras to enslave people and make them do what they want, and how that was a bad thing. And everybody was like, yes. And in the same fucking industry, 10 years later, we're like, AI and voice chat. Yes, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I guess the problem is
it's okay when it's fiction. It's not okay when it's reality.
This goes for everything, right? You shouldn't live your life by movies, but if you discover a mummy tomb that's 3,000 years old, leave it alone. You know, you find a little bit of DNA from dinosaurs frozen in the glaciers, leave it alone. Right? We don't heed movies too much, right? And I know it's ridiculous, they're movies, but here's the thing. James Cameron made Terminator already. We know what could happen with AI, and I feel like people do not take it seriously. In a totally different way than, Drake being upset that an AI can make better songs than he can, or people being upset that there's digital AI artists out there. The part that freaks me out is everyone is okay feeding all this information to a machine who we know Google has shut down AIs because they were worried they became sentient. And we're like, yeah, can you make it sound like me? Can you make me sing the Macarena?
I didn't know that. I don't remember hearing that Google shut down an AI because it was sentient, because I'm pretty sure we're well off from that. But
who the fuck knows? That could all be urban legend bullshit.
No, but look, point being across the board, it is, we don't heed enough stuff. And I mean, that goes to, even outside of AI, that goes to surveillance state. Brett, whether I'm not saying it's any better, dude. If there was another person on the other end listening to the recordings of
Jim
Call of Duty
Ryan's
voice
in your party chat, he's like, what the fuck?
Also, yeah, could you imagine if someone had to listen to the shit that people say that doesn't actually matter? You'd just be like, dude, people are fucking weird, because we are. That's the one truth of it. The only truth is that people are weird. I say that all the time. The meaning of the word weird doesn't even make sense, because we're all weird.
Yeah. All I have to say is we are putting an AI to monitor a video game about fast-paced warfare. Okay? Do you understand
where
what
you
I'm
murder
saying
millions of people?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's now an AI being taught the intricacies of quickscoping and 360
They will be able to
headshots.
360 no-scope us in record time.
Dude, you don't understand, okay? This thing becomes sentient because it's now listening to us. It's listening to the way we all convey emotions. It is watching Call of Duty, and then all of a sudden, Tony Stark creates Ultron. This thing takes it fucking over, and we all die because somebody was scared of being called a shitty player in a Call of Duty voice chat. I don't like that.
I mean,
if somebody is fucked up in the chat, just call the cops. Brett, what's next?
All right. So, as much as Baldur's Gate 3 was a good hit to Chris's Metacritic draft, the pendulum always has to swing the other way. So Suikoden 1 and 2 remasters are being delayed. Konami tweeted out a statement from the team. Quote, "We would like to thank Suikoden fans everywhere for your ongoing passion and support for the Suikoden series." The message reads, "Regarding the planned release of Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Gate Rune, and Dunin Unification Wars, we have reached the conclusion that despite the very best efforts of our dedicated development staff to release the remasters in 2023, additional time is needed to ensure the quality, performance, and gameplay experience our users deserve. The entire Suikoden team is renewing our efforts to bring Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster to release as soon as is possible. We will share further release information as soon as it becomes available on our official social media accounts and official homepage. We appreciate your understanding and sincerely hope you will continue to lend Suikoden your support." End quote. So yeah, not coming this year. And as we've seen with a few things today, delays are coming. And as Chris and I said, delays are coming, and it's not going to help a whole lot. It's only going to alleviate the pressure and spread it a little thinner, at least. A lot of games are moving, and most of it is because the release window is too crowded. I'm not so sure this isn't just a veiled version of we have no reasonable time to release this niche game, so we're going to wait. Because THQ Nordic announced today that Alone in the Dark is going to be pushed to January instead of coming out in October it was originally intending. And their entire reason they gave is that there's too many games coming out in October for them to be reasonably successful. And while moving to January is not nearly as useful as October, I understand where they're coming from. Whether or not it will work the way they want, it's a completely different conversation. But I understand the fear that comes with going up against Spider-Man and Alan Wake 2 and a litany of other games. You know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, Chris, how do you feel about this extra 0 to your list?
It's pretty brutal because I got another 0 coming.
Yeah?
So,
which one's that?
Stellar Blade.
And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh, that's already counted. Here's the crazy part is I might have had the best picks of the draft.
Oh, you 100% did.
And lose.
I won't say that you're going to lose yet, but it is looking pretty rough that you had 3 of the highest scoring games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I have 3 of the most mid scoring games. But enough zeros will sink a ship.
I think right now we have the same amount because you have what, 1, 2, 3.
I know a few of them have moved. I mean, I know I've been hit with a few.
Well, I didn't even put Pikmin on yours. Yeah, but I have a 95, a 96, and a 94. And a 92. And I still could lose. Because right now the score is 71 to 68. So
yeah. I mean,
which is weird because I put in Baldur's Gate and lost points. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
I don't get it, but I do saw Spider-Man, Lies of P.
Yeah, sure. Pikmin 4 landed right where I was. You remember when we talked about like that'll be a high performing 80. Here we are with a chance of being a 90, and I wasn't wrong.
I should have taken Sea of Stars because I knew it was going to be good. But I'm at a point, and this is what's fun about the fantasy draft is I'm at a point where I can just full on have conversations with you about it because you can't pick anything else. And I don't know what else to pick for this year. Sea of Stars is like the last thing I could think of.
Armored Core 6 was a good ad for me. Yeah, Phantom Liberty is going to come down to being my really important game, I feel like. I feel confident about it. So it's
I think because we're not picking like if this was like you can only pick PS5 games, right? First off, I'd lose Zelda. But second off,
true.
You would have to worry about Cyberpunk. Is it like, are they reviewing the PC version or the console version? You know? That's where Cyberpunk's a good pick because the PC version will probably be great. The rest of them, next gen's or last gen's not included in the fun, but
thankfully, oh man,
oh my god! Imagine if
best news. I know someone's pissed about that, but best news it could have ever come.
I wish I tried it on PS4, but I want to know.
I mean, you can always find out.
I'm not buying another PS4. I have enough consoles to have one that is playable with the PS5.
I know this sounds weird, but I almost wish you could tell the PS5 to just be a PS4 since it has a chipset. Like, hey, don't give any of the benefits. Right. Pretend you're a PS4.
That would be cool.
Just so you can see how games change, right? You should be able to toggle whether you want enhanced backwards compatibility.
Like in the Master Chief Collection?
Well, and I say that anyway because, like, wouldn't that be useful? Because if a game in enhanced backwards compatibility, like the way it's supposed to work, is not actually working right, but you can turn it off and it starts working right, that'd be useful. You could have a certain game level control. Like, do I want this extra or not? So, Who knows?
I'm with you.
All right, let's see. We've got a little bit more in the news here, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, yep. Yeah, here we are. The big thing. Now, finally, the big news on the mind of PlayStation fans came this week with Sony announcing Saints Row Black Desert Traveler Edition and Generation Zero are going to be available to claim in the PlayStation Store with a PS Plus sub of any tier. As of this episode, they are available. Remember that the games will stay in your library and be available to play forever should the urge come, so long as you have a PlayStation Plus subscription. Same thing they've always done. Generation Zero is currently holding a 45 on Metacritic, while Saints Row is a leap in relative quality at 61, while the crown jewel of the list is actually Black Desert, which sits at a 73. So the reason that we chose to give those when we don't usually is while announcing the games of the month, Sony at the very end snuck in some changes to the price of PlayStation Plus tiers. PlayStation Plus Essential will be going up to $20.
By $20.
By $20. Something to note here. This is strictly yearly.
Yes.
And that's going to come into play in this conversation, in my opinion. So PlayStation Plus Essential will be going up by $20 to $79.99 a year. Extra increases by $25 to $134 a year, and premium a whopping $40 to $159.99 a year. In response to this news, Sony's stock price took a leap of about 3%, with analysts pegging the move at a nearly $400 million per year profit increase. So that's nothing to scoff at. This is despite the uproar from PlayStation fans on social media, which admonished the move as anti-consumer, especially given the quality of the games on offer this month and the slow trickle of titles into the upper tiers of the service, in particular the PlayStation Classics catalog. It is a little rough to say, hey, this sucks right after one of the highest rated games of the year in Sea of Stars just hit the service day one. I just want to throw that out there. But there's a lot to say here. And there's a lot of opinions, and I think that all of them are valid and given one way or the other. And I still think that this has an impact. But I think two things are true, in my opinion. First thing that's true is that no matter how much the internet may admonish them, and may say that this is bad, this is anti-consumer, blah, blah, blah. I don't say blah, 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 blah to discredit them. I say it because the reality is that the vast majority of people who are PS Plus subscribers are not us. They are not the people who are very into and on the pulse of the gaming industry. And this stuff means something different to them. They don't even think about it that way. They see a service that they feel they have to need for certain things that they want to play, and they see it going up in price only through the yearly rate. This isn't even going to probably impact some people, because some of those more casual people are probably paying by the month or by the 3 months. Which leads me to my second truth. It being only yearly, I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's the one tier where it makes the most sense, because I don't think people realized just how much the yearly savings were. It was kind of crazy. And so moving it up, even premium, right? Moving premium up by $40 is still, you're only paying about 65% of what you would pay if you did it by the month. Before, you were paying about 50 to 45% of what you were doing if you would have paid for it by the month. The savings were incredible, and I'm glad Sony offered that. But I think more people than they anticipated moved to that pricing, and they saw a decrease in profit because of that. And now they were like, maybe we can bump those up and keep those people, or at least keep the majority of them, and see some of that profit return to us. That's kind of where I land on this. There's a big conversation about the quality of the games. Chris, what do you think about all this? And more so the quality of the games too, and how they play into your decision making with something like this when the time comes to renew or drop.
I'm weird about it. I think this should have been done gradually.
I could see that. But how gradually, out of curiosity?
I don't know, but me going, like, if you had told me it was going up by $10 this month, and then in 3 months $10, and then in 6 months $20, and got where you were, in about 8 months, a year, this would be a lot easier to swallow. But it's hard to go, hey, that premium subscription you've gotten very little use out of because you bought sight unseen into something we told you we were going to do and have barely done. Yeah, that's going up by $40. That's hard to hear. I think the only thing, and again, I think it's because I'm an optimist, this signals to me that they're going to do some kind of value add very soon.
See, I thought so too. But the nagging part of my brain that looks at how bad inflation has been views this as Sony just finally going, you don't get to reap the benefits of keeping a low price when inflation's gone up. So we're going to go ahead and raise the price. And while we're taking the opportunity, we're going to add a little bit more just in case inflation continues to go out of control. Bam. Now, I like to think that the real truth is somewhere in the middle, that Sony goes, we can raise it by a good chunk at the yearly rate so we make up some of our lost money. And we can add a little bit of better value to this all at once. Not enough to just completely eat up the increase in what we're making people pay for it, but enough to at least, if they do nothing, I think this will have bigger impact, maybe not still big enough impact for Sony to care. But I think it would be bigger if they did nothing. If it kept coming at the same rate and the games still were super inconsistent, I could see people being like, okay, what the fuck was the price increase for? But I think I've already given the answer. There's a reason that the monthly price did not go up. It's already enough for them.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I don't know. I feel like, and again, it's all the internet's not a real place kind of shit. But I feel like the optics of raising it $40 when one of the games you're releasing for free to people is a 45 on Metacritic is a bad look. And not for nothing, Jeff Grubb has said, like, hey, they're going to do an event to talk about something like this. There's going to be a state of play. And it wouldn't surprise me, right, if the state of play ends and it just goes Infamous available now. Or download Infamous right now. That wouldn't surprise me, and that would make this worth it. Even if it was, listening to other Sacred Symbols podcasts, they talked about how, I think it was Moore's Law is Dead, it's talked about how they've been able to emulate it on a game-by-game basis, right? So for all we know, what if Sony's just like, we got Infamous working on PS5, here it is. It might take 2 months to do the next game, it might take a year. But we are making the effort to put PS3 games on there. That would be like, to me, I'd be like, yeah, I'll pay that $40. I'll pay you $50 extra. Depending on, the thing is, depending on what they do, they can charge anything. If they go,
to a degree, but just like we said, the internet's not the real place. The other side, the flip coin of your point right there, right, is that there are people that don't care about PS3 emulation at all.
Yeah, but they're not paying for premium. I'm talking about the premium.
You're right. The highest hike.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
fair enough.
Because you have to sell to those people, and those people are me. And I don't know about you, but I have.
I don't know who buys premium without being people who are like us.
Right. Because if you're not, if you just want a game library, you buy extra and you go, what the fuck is a Twisted Metal? You know what I mean? Like,
or you go, I played Twisted Metal 20 years ago. I want the new.
Exactly. Let me get that Sea of Stars. So it all depends. They could charge $200 and be like, every month we're putting 5 PS3 games for download on there.
Yeah.
Or they can charge an extra $40 and be like, we're doing jack shit. Or they can try and salvage some stuff and just be like, we're adding Vita to the list, or here's a PS3 game, To me, if they're doing a state of play, that thing's ending with a PS3 game playable and downloadable. Personally.
Yeah, sure. Now, I'll tell you something to think about here, right? This doesn't necessarily mean anything super strong, and I am aware of that. But look at it this way. You have right now, you think about the fact that they only went up in price on the yearly, right, for PlayStation. And then you try and look at what the other side of the aisle is doing, right? So you look and you say, okay, so right now it's going to be $159.99 or whatever for PS Plus Premium. Okay. And I can understand how that is like, oh, that doesn't feel value proposition worth enough for it. But then you go over and you look at Game Pass for console. Not even Game Pass Ultimate, doesn't include the ability to play online or any of that. And you look at that and you go, okay, that's $132 because you can only pay for it monthly and it's $11 a month. So are you really telling me right now that $18 does not make premium at a yearly if you want to buy it at that rate, that's not still a really good deal, because it is. It's just contextually what you've been playing. Like you said, the $40 all at once feels like shit. Because here's the crazy thing about it is, prior to this price increase, yearly you could get a year of the highest tier of PlayStation for cheaper than a year of the lowest tier. Well, there's Game Pass Core or whatever, which is what they replaced Gold with. But if you want real Game Pass, the lowest form of Game Pass would have been more money in the year than you're going to pay for on PlayStation. That doesn't mean that, depending on what you find value in, Xbox Game Pass is a very specific value proposition. But then you look at Game Pass Ultimate, right? Game Pass Ultimate is $17 a month, and you can only get it by paying for it by month. That's $204 a year. That $159 doesn't look so bad now, does it? It's like, I get it, but when you try and remove yourself a little bit from it and you kind of look at it in a more pragmatic standpoint, I kind of see why Sony did what they did. And I would only, you're muted, Chris. I would only actually have a stronger opinion if they changed the monthly pricing. If the monthly pricing went up and similarly in percentage, I'd be like, okay, what the fuck are you doing to make this more worth this every month?
Yeah, I agree with you, because look, full disclosure, I pay by the 3 month.
Okay. And I pay by the year. So this actually impacts me.
I did it once, and here's the thing. It sounds dumb. I understand that, and I think a lot of people feel the same way I do. I would rather spend $18 once a month than $159 at once a year. Because here's the thing.
It depends on how you pay it.
I pay it, and it's awesome. It was a great decision. But the day I pay it, I feel like shit until my next paycheck comes through. Okay, I'll give you a story, and it'll make me sound like an idiot. But my last paycheck, right at the beginning, I spent $100 on Marvel Snap because I really wanted credits. I really wanted to be able to upgrade my cards, and I wanted the variants. And until I got my next paycheck, I felt like a fucking asshole.
Okay, fair enough.
But I got my paycheck, and I was like, I'm good. So I think a lot of people are the same way, where they're like, $18 just feels better today.
Yeah. I get both sides, because the $18 feel better today, but by the end of the year, you feel like you paid so much more. I'm the kind of guy that I want to pinch the pennies and see the hit while seeing the rest of the year go off without me having to have that hit again. I don't know. It's kind of like would you rather have one big whooping that hurts, but then you're done? Or would you rather get 10 whoopings across, 12 whoopings across the whole year? Once a month, you're still going to get a pretty good whooping.
5 slaps for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah. It's the How I Met Your Mother. How many slaps do you want?
No, I get it. It's better, but again, it just feels bad. It's the same thing like when I was telling you, like, I got to just buy a bunch of games now and stop. Alan Wake, by the time I get to it, probably be like $40, but I need to buy it now because then I can just take my card off PSN, not touch my shit. But if I have it there because I'm going to buy it later, I'm going to keep fucking buying little shit. Be like, oh yeah, I'll play fucking Xenomon. Dude, I downloaded that shit, played it for 10 minutes. I was like, this is a cool Pokemon. Like, I haven't fucking touched that shit again. I'm never going to touch it again because Baldur's Gate 3 is out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, I get it, man.
Let's hope something comes out of this.
Well, we have a question that I think is very much in line with this, and this is important because as I was reading it, I thought, wow, this is actually pretty accurate for me. So Jehudi, MD, one of our patrons, he says, as Brett and Chris and maybe others who play games on a consistent basis, do you think services like PS Plus are not worth it anymore? Since subscribing, I have not played a single game from them for 2 main reasons. The first reason, I want to own the game since I'll be putting time into it and want to make sure it's there when the time comes to play it. 2, and this is a little different because this is not maybe talking about the essential games, but more the extra games, which are only yours while they're on the service. Once they rotate off, you can't play them anymore. Good context. Anyway, he says, the second reason, when a major game releases on PS Plus, it's either I have already played it or it's something I was not interested in at all to begin with. I know the benefits of these services from a value perspective, but I want to know your personal opinion in terms of being a much more involved gamer than your average person. So, Chris, we're moving ourselves back a little bit and looking at the service and thinking about the way you use it. How do you actually feel about whether or not it's actually worth it to you?
The answer to the question is it's not worth it to me. But I don't buy it to make up my value. You know, like I'm not one of these people who's like, I paid $159 a year for PS Plus Premium. I better get $159 at least of worth in terms of games I played. I'm not like that. I have PS Plus Essential because something like Saints Row, where I'm like, I want to try it. I want to know, but I'm not spending the money. Or something like Sea of Stars, where I'm like, this looks fantastic. I'm super excited. And I just got it for free.
So do you have Essential or do you have Extra?
I have Premium.
Oh, okay. I thought, but you said, I get what you mean. You're saying each individual, like the reason why you'd get each tier. I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah. For me, it's I have Premium because in case there's something there, I have access. Sure. You know, I'm the type of person, and a lot of this is laziness, but I have most of the streaming services. And it's stupid because I've never watched Hulu, and I think I've paid for it for like 3 years.
Man, that was pretty bad.
But here's the thing. It's the same thing I was saying. It's like $10. And then I every time I get charged, I'm like, that's annoying. I need to cancel. And then I forget because it's $10. Yeah. And that's a very privileged thing I get to say. But it really is just that. And then look, the one time there was something I wanted to watch, I watched The Patient. That was cool. It was on Hulu. I got to see it, and I didn't have to pay for something that day. I still haven't canceled Peacock. And it's a lot of just
I'm actually glad because I'm getting to watch The Office, and I'm just like, one of these days, Chris will cancel this.
No, I won't.
Twisted Metal was awesome.
Twisted Metal was awesome. So I'm a person who has things because if I want them, it's accessible. And I'm not someone who's like, I want to own Sea of Stars. If Sea of Stars comes off the service and I find it on sale, I might buy it. But I'm not going to be like, oh, I need to have Sea of Stars here. You know?
Yes. So
that's the way I am.
I think my answer to this is similar to yours in the fact that up until recently, like I've always ended up getting some benefit from PS Plus throughout years, but I've had a form of PS Plus since the service came out. At first, I just really thought automatic updating, automatic cloud saves and all that was worth it. And then the games were just like, wow, okay, this is a really cool extra. Great. And then when the games kind of took center stage and became the main thing, and everything else was kind of the backup, I was still like, cool. And I've gotten a lot of good value out of that, getting games like Rocket League, getting games like Stray. If I ever get around to Sea of Stars, if it doesn't move off, being able to play that. I won't own it. That's a very good point. But I think the way I view it is kind of like Chris. I think that these services' worth is heavily based on where you are on a spectrum. And I think my end of the spectrum, and to some degree Chris's, is that I would rather spend the money, and I pay yearly, but to the whatever end, I'd rather pay the money so that it's there, so that if a game or an aspect of the service hits that I want to take advantage of, I can. So to that end, I recently played through Twisted Metal 1 and 2. I've recently downloaded not Silent. I recently downloaded Siphon Filter, both of the PSP ones, so Dark Mirror and Logan Shadow. And downloaded Killzone Liberation, all games I intend on playing soon because cool. Like, yeah, I could buy them and it would probably be cheaper or maybe even the same cost. But I'd rather have the ability to access it and then have a game hit that I like than have to worry about it. But the reality of it is that for the most part, nothing hits the service that's strong enough to make me want to go play it because I've already played it or I didn't interest it in beginning, like you said. So the flip side of that is I think the people that this service is most valuable to are the people who do not have the type of money that we have to buy it just because you have it in case something does hit. I think it's people who actually go, I only have so much money to game per year. And the easiest way for me to get the biggest bang for my buck is to get a service, maybe buy the 1 or 2 games that I feel I need to play day one that my budget will allow. And then every other game I can play is just when they eventually hit one of these services. And you get to go, okay, cool. Now I can play a day one game like Stray, but if not, then cool. Now I can play whatever game is. This goes to show you how much I don't know about what's on extra. I don't even know what's there. But the point being is that for any given person who only has so much gaming dollars, that's a good solution for them. So, and that's great for Sony because they're getting it either way. For the people who buy it because they need the ability to play a lot of games for a budgeted amount of money, bam, you got them. That's a customer. And for the people who probably buy most of the games they play anyway, but want the backup just in case something hits and they're curious, like Chris and Saints Row, you get to go, cool, I got them too.
Yeah. Like I've said about services, my kids will be Game Pass kids, and I will have to eventually have a third shelf for all my games. Fuck them kids.
And I have to, dude, I bought this damn Dark Magician statue, which is beautiful, and I love it, and I got it at a great price. And the entire time since it's gotten out of the box, I immediately started, I was talking to Velvet about this. I don't know where the fuck the Venom statue from Spider-Man 2 is going to go. I have no shelf. This has been sitting on my table, not for any other reason than I have nowhere to put it. I just don't know what to do with it.
See, I don't even have the room for it.
And so I have to ask myself, I have to buy a cabinet. I have to buy a shelf. I have to buy something.
Mm-hmm.
And damn, what a feeling that is.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a first world problem.
I was joking with Sadie today because I don't play games in front of her, really. I think the last time I did it was that when I was beating The Witcher 3, and I was like, I'm sorry, I need to finish this. So for like 2 hours, she sat there and watched it, but I don't. And I was like, I'm saving it because there's going to be a room if we live together that's entirely for my video games. And there are going to be days where you're like, he hasn't stood. And you're going to have to deal with it then. So for now, I'll be courteous.
There you go. Gentleman Chris.
What can I say?
Tip of the fedora, right?
I don't need her to see the like shirt halfway up my belly with like a soda balanced in the fat cup that's right there.
But you hope she embraces that, right?
Yeah.
Like she just comes in with a plate of tender tendies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Little kiss on the forehead and then fucks off because I'm in the middle of a cutscene. Get out of the way. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, man.
We have another question, Brett? It is fun.
We do have another question. So this one comes from Matthew Green, one of our patrons. He says, have you had any gaming-related injuries? Tendons in hand hurt from playing Final Fantasy 16, button bashing square. So now playing Sniper Elite 5 as it's slower paced. Could be an age thing, I suppose. So Chris, have you had an injury from your gaming?
I mean, I've gotten carpal tunnel a couple times. COVID, I had it really bad because I didn't do anything but play video games because I was locked down for 3 months.
I remember.
3-4 months.
And I had to go back to work, and you were just like, what have you been doing? I've been playing this for 12 hours.
Yeah. I got the Skyrim Platinum in a week, if that tells you anything. And it was a long Platinum. That was like 100 hours. But
it took you 100 hours?
Yeah, because I didn't know about the leveling trick. So I had to spend a lot of time just using illumination spells.
Wow. I got the Platinum in 40 hours.
Yeah. It was annoying. Especially all those thieving quests. Fuck that shit.
Dude, that's the most variable one. That could add 10 hours to your playthrough, or it could happen instantly.
Ugh. I mean, I didn't rush it. I just had fun playing.
It's a great game. Yeah, very fun.
But the only true injury I've ever gotten is playing Bloodborne.
Ooh.
Defiled amygdala.
Did you have an aneurysm?
Close. I when I was younger, when Bloodborne came out, I was just in a very small bedroom. So I was sitting on the floor and I had a nightstand here, and I had a little knobs for the to pull the drawer out. And I think I lost my like 40th, 50th run at Amygdala, and I punched the thing, I hit the knob and broke my knuckle.
I punched our steel door on the okay. It's not even a boss. That's what made it worse. And I've since solved this problem, but we talked about it not long ago. You know the elevator that you can jump out of and roll to get to the last big blood chunk that you use to upgrade your
Yes.
weapon?
Yep.
I could not get through that section without getting frenzied to death. And after like my 15th to 20th run, I stood up and punched the shit out of our metal front door that was already bad and needed to be replaced. And I knew that. So like I had to channel my anger towards something. And I was like, metal door, worst case scenario, it hurts me. I don't hurt anything else. And I punched the shit out of it and bruised my knuckle really bad.
Yeah.
But I did not break anything. I think my only my real injury, as it were, for that carpal tunnel. I was playing back in 2013 when Diablo 3 came out. I was still working at the hospital and I worked overnight shifts. So since me and my friend both were off in the times where you could just play into the middle of the night for no reason, for my times I wasn't working, we would play like 10 to 12 hour sessions of Diablo 3 on PC. And that game on PC is entirely point and click. Everything about it is. And the reason I refuse to play Diablo 4 on PC, Diablo 3 on PC ever again, Diablo 3 on PC for sure, because it never, even though there was controller support for the game, because of the console version, they never put it into the PC version, those bastards. I refused to play that game. My wrist hurt for months after. And I have never had a true carpal tunnel spell since. I've had games like recently, like Forspoken, where I can feel that part of like that tendon getting tired. And I'm like, okay, I need to take a break. But I haven't had any long term. And yeah, that was a bitch. I hated it. And I have long since people are like, you want to play Diablo? What are we playing on? PC? Not happening. I will not play Baldur's Gate 3 on PC. Not happening.
Oh, it's so much better.
And I know that that's not even nearly as click intensive as a game like Baldur. I mean, like a game like Diablo 3 is, but it's not happening. Not happening at all.
I respect the commitment to that.
I've been metaphorically burned, Chris.
I miss the PC version. That's my biggest complaint.
I can understand why to some degree. You know, having to radial menu to jump every single time I want to jump consecutively kind of fucking sucks. I kind of wish there was a quick menu. I don't really understand why there's not a quick menu that you can hold just for like 4 actions, 8 actions. Fucking, I don't care. Anything.
So you want a radial menu to make the radial menus easier to navigate?
No, it's just one that instead of having to pull up one that's got like 12 options on it and then you keep scooching over, it would just be, yeah. Honestly, not even a radial menu, just a hold R1 and then the 4 face buttons or 4 things. I'd be perfectly fine with that. If I could R1 X and that would automatically do jump and I could just aim and jump, I'd be happy.
I don't hate that.
But, you know, that's not how it worked out. Good question though, and good luck on your. It sounds like you got carpal tunnel, so good luck on the carpal tunnel. But keep playing something a little slower and lower paced. But it goes to show that you could even get those carpal tunnel even on controller. Thankfully, I haven't yet. We got one more question before we go into the sexiest part of the show, and it's from Pork Chops. He says, with more and more great games in all genres releasing more frequently now, I've always found myself trying to get into the JRPG genre, but to no avail. I honestly have no idea why either. My question for y'all, what is one genre of game that you've always wanted to play, but can never seem to actually find a game in said genre to fulfill the desire? And Chris, I kind of want to hear what you have to say on the start of this, because part of me thinks it might be platformers.
I don't want to get into platformers, so I think that's why I would say no. Although I see where you're coming from, because I don't play a lot of platformers.
Well, there's been a lot of them where you start them and you're like, yeah, that looks like it might be cool, and then you just don't.
Yeah, like I've tried. There's been a couple I've tried. Crash. I liked Crash 4 until I didn't.
Crash 4 is great. Yep.
But in terms of something I'm dying to get into and I just can't, it's JRPGs. I can't play them.
It's
I've
so funny too
tried.
because one of your top games of all time is a JRPG, but it's the only one.
The JRPG. And I cannot get into a single other one. I've tried almost every Final Fantasy readily available to me. I have tried Trails, and I like Trails, but it's long. I have tried Tales. I have tried Disgaea. I have tried the other Personas. And I've gotten halfway through 4 and I've beaten 5 Royal, and that is it. But I am desperate to like those games and I don't know why. It almost feels like I have to.
Why? Why does that feel so strong?
Dude, you want to know honestly why I think of it? And it's a little parasocial. I've been listening. Everyone who listens to this knows, and I'm sure if you listen to both podcasts, sometimes you hear me take some of what Colin says because I've been listening to him since I was like 15 years old, and he has talked throughout my entire life about the JRPGs he's loved. And I was so the reason I was excited for the Pixel remasters and Final Fantasy VI is because he's talked about that game for my whole life. Listening to the
6
man,
is goated.
Yeah. I can't play it. It's not fun to me. I don't like it, and I want to. And I think it's that little bit of like people like that, not even him, Greg Miller, like even the fucking cheap ass gamer guys who I used to listen to, like they've all influenced and they all liked JRPGs. And I have begged myself to like it. I forced myself through half of Tales of Arise. And I just can't do the genre except for Persona. And again, I don't think I would have beaten Persona if it was not for COVID. Because I sat for 120 hours doing nothing but staring at that screen playing Persona. It was an awesome experience. But I haven't been able to do it for anything else.
This one's a hard one because I don't think there's a genre that I don't like any game in, which is kind of true for you, right? Because like JRPGs, you still have Persona 5. Like you have a single game that clicks with you.
Holding on with like one index finger. Like I do like one.
But you at least have something, right? And I'd say up until recently, I would say that was what visual novels were for me, because on paper, I feel like I should love visual novels. And I've played games that are visual novel adjacent and really enjoyed them. And then it comes time to play visual novels, and I always fall off of them. Velvet, I remember whenever I first talked about starting Danganronpa, and I had this moment where I was like, cool, I'm enjoying this. Great. And I never picked it back up. Like, it's just like it didn't click with me, and I didn't keep continuing playing it, and I'm sure he noticed that. And so every time that I want to play one, I'm like, okay, cool. And for a long time, I thought I'd just fall out of them. And then Doki Doki Literature Club came out. And by all intents and purposes, that is a visual novel game.
Yeah, very much so.
And I became addicted, and it was all I wanted to do, and it's all I played. And so that became a thing where I was like, okay, so it can be done. There is a good enough game in any given genre that can click with somebody. It's just the hard thing of figuring out what game that is and then clicking and then hoping that means that genre broadens to you and you start liking more of them because you have clicked with them. I'd say this, I haven't tried enough visual novels after Doki Doki in order to say that I'm now a fan of them. So it's probably still the genre I'm going to most say. MMO might be the only other one, but that feels kind of wrong because like I've loved Destiny 2 at times, and I think that there's no way you can consider Destiny and Destiny 2 to not be MMOs. I've said that since day one, even when Activision refused to let Bungie call them that. And I do love like old school RuneScape. Speaking of which, that's like my pedestal MMO. Everyone else is probably like, why the fuck? But I love that game. And then my other pedestal MMO, if nothing else, that's a little more traditional, is like a weird ass game called Silk Road Online that most people have never even heard of that I adore. So it's funny. I mean, like, there's a few genres I just don't get a whole bunch of, but I mean, most genres I think are fun, and most genres have at least a game in them that makes you go, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
So Good question, though. I think there was a time in my life where there was more games like that than there are now. Thankfully, I've broadened my horizons a lot. Still have problems with turn-based games, but they're not entirely like I loved them as a kid, and it's like so, I don't know what happened, but it's like my ability to care has moved off. But I've had a surprisingly good time with Baldur's Gate 3's flavor of turn-based.
Are you gonna play any of that on your own?
Well, right now, no, because I don't have enough time.
Yeah,
that's strictly where I'm at, and so I'm trying to save every bit of me playing that game to be with you guys. But depending on how we continue to feel about it, because right now I'm enjoying it, which is in part because of the game and in part because of the group. Because I'm actually going to say I think playing Baldur's Gate 3 as a party is actively harder, and I don't mean difficulty. I don't mean difficulty.
Okay.
I mean in being able to enjoy the story, because half the time we're starting conversations and I know why the game doesn't do it, but the fact that I miss at least half of every conversation because I have to choose to actively listen to it is kind of bullshit. I just kind of wish that your characters and the NPCs would speak and I wouldn't get the cutscene camera, but I could still hear everything, because it bothers the shit out of me that if I just don't know where the fuck you are and can't find you quick enough, or if I don't go to the menu and hit listen, I miss chunks of dialogue.
I get that.
Like, it bothers the shit out of me. And I get why they chose that route, but it means playing the game to enjoy the story for what it actually is significantly harder. So I feel like most of the fun we're going to have is stories of us doing dumb shit together, like trying to beat up the tiefling kids in their hideout.
Facts. That was fun.
Part of me wants to play it to actually see the story through uninterrupted.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But why do you ask?
Because I'm curious if your like of it is because you're playing with us, or if you're going to if you play it on your own, you actively enjoy playing it.
I see a version of myself actively enjoying playing it by myself.
Cool.
But when I will act on that is hard to say at the moment, because I'd rather play as the group, because it is fun in its own very specific way.
Very specific way.
Well, I mean, it is. I think that playing that game as a group is inherently different from playing that game single player.
I completely agree. I just think the way you said it was funny.
All right. So I think, Chris, are you ready to go into the sexiest part of the show?
Yeah, buddy. Put baby in a corner.
I will. You know what? I'll put baby in a corner. You know how?
How?
With. I don't know what happened. Let me play it one more time, uninterrupted. So that you can edge a little bit more. You ready? All right. So I don't know what happened, but when I first tried to click the button to let it play, my computer just went boom, like it didn't know what the fuck to find. That was just funny. Velvet comes this week and he says, let's give PlayStation characters Pokemon partners. Who would be the perfect partners for Kratos, Nathan Drake, Aloy, Cole McGrath, and Jin Sakai?
Okay.
Also, who would be the best trainer among them? All right. So I think I've landed. I've been really thinking about Cole, because it's clearly going to be an electric Pokemon. They're going to be like Simpatico in that regard, right?
Okay.
And at first, my thought process was like Toxicroak, who's poison and electric. But I kind of feel like Cole's pretty nimble and he's really acrobatic. And so I kind of feel like I need to get him something that's quicker, that's electric.
Okay.
So what are you thinking?
So Cole, we're looking for a quicker electric Pokemon. How about Jolteon?
Jolteon's not a bad option. I mean, that'd be a pretty nimble bird to run around. I mean, Raikou could also work. I'm trying to think of one that would fit his style all at the same time. Luxray may not be an awful choice. That kind of brooding, dark, electric.
What about Zapdos?
A bird? I was thinking like maybe something that could just fly around him. That actually might be kind of cool. Zapdos is a big motherfucker, though.
Zapdos can fly.
Emolga.
Well, hold on.
I don't think that fits him.
This is a partner, though. So
this is a partner. They're going to work. So a water Pokemon may not be a bad idea, but he can never cuddle his water Pokemon. That would be sad.
What about a Golem?
A what?
A Golem, the big guy with the circle with the rocks, because then he could cuddle his Golem.
I mean, yes, but is that going to help him?
Could.
I mean, how is it as a partner? How's it going to help him? Because like his ability to soak someone in water and then electrocute them would be like fucking next to that'd be ideal, right?
Yeah.
But is also his ability to just channel electricity with something else and just like super shock someone also cool.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking like Snorlax would kind of fill the Zeke void.
Oh, okay. Because this is in the afterlife.
So Duskull.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Drifloon. He just floats away.
I'm good.
It's not awful. It's not awful.
It's not awful.
Oh, I forgot about this dude. I feel like he might fit the bill. He's a newer Pokemon. He's Gen 7? Zeraora. I don't actually know how to pronounce his name because they don't ever say any of the goddamn names in the game. But look up Zeraora. I think he came in Sword and Shield. Isn't that Gen 7 or was that?
Okay, I see it. I like that for him. Zeraora.
That feels right. It feels kind of like you can see how it'd be nimble and run around with him. And then when they fist bump, it'd be like you'd see little sparks come. That'd be cool.
Okay.
And he has fists. So, I mean, this seems cool.
I like it. That's actually pretty dope.
Okay. So we've got that one knocked out. So let's keep going. We've got to figure out Kratos. Now, unfortunately, there's not really a Pokemon that is based off of Greek anything. I don't really know why. That's just kind of where we are. But Greeks were known for riding horses and putting armor on their horses. So part of me wants to say that Kratos would ride, what's that Clydesdale Pokemon? Its name might even Mudsdale. Big hoofed motherfucker.
Okay. Hear me out, though.
I will hear you out. What's up?
I lost it. Oh, Scyther.
Okay, I'm feeling you.
Got the
arm blades.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Scyther.
Scyther's a cool one. So
yeah,
I'm trying to think of which ones would Kratos ever see fit to evolve Scyther into a Scizor? You know what I mean? Scizor, whatever you say.
I could see it, him being into it for sure.
Oh, do you remember? Okay, so Legends Arceus had a version of Scyther basically that was like an ancient Pokemon. And I think it may even be a better version of. I wish I could remember its name right now. That game's great. Cleavor, that's his name. Look up Cleavor, and he's like an ancient Scyther, but he's like rock, and he's got like big stone, like axe hands. Then you're going even more into it, right?
Okay. I'm still going Scyther, but that's my opinion.
I like Scyther too, but I think they both fit. But something about he looks like he's wearing like ancient Greece armor almost, like he's like wearing some ancient armor for battle.
I can see.
He looks more time specific than Scyther does.
That's fair.
But how about we just say this? Because Cleavor is just an evolution of Scyther, so in some form, Scyther.
Yeah, that works for me.
There we go. I'm willing to give you that one. All right. So now we go into Nathan Drake. I've been trying to think about this a lot. Here's like, would it be someone who would like play against him, like play off of him? Or would it be someone who like acts like him? Like, would it be a Pokemon that's got like a little bit of sass to him? You know what I'm saying? What are you thinking down in that big brain of yours, Chris?
I'm feeling like...
Sorry, I think my headphone cut out. What's up?
I feel like Nathan Drake is like an Electrike guy, or even a Meowth guy.
Oh, a Meowth guy? Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I kind of get where you're coming from.
Ooh.
But you know, he's like a big softie.
No, he's
inside.
Apom.
Apom. I'm with you on that one.
Because he's
I like
climbing.
that.
That's him.
Yeah.
Easy.
I like that. Apom, yeah. And that's the final evolution of that, right? No. It's what is his evolution?
It's an Apom with a bigger hand, if I remember correctly.
Or is Apom the final? I don't think it is.
It's not.
Oh, there's two hands. It's Ampabomb.
There you go.
And then there's one with even more hands for tails. I think it may just be Mega Ampabomb. That's a good one, though. I like that one.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So let's keep going. We got a couple more here. We got Aloy, Fire Redhead. She gets mounts. But I guess it would make sense to be able to ride Rapidash, but Rapidash just feels right in my head.
Suicune,
really?
Yeah.
Have I ever told you that, and Saul told this on the podcast before, when he was a kid, he thought, because again, no one knows how to pronounce Pokemon names until you finally hear them. He thought it was pronounced
Seasween or something?
Suisween.
Suisween. That's brutal.
I completely get it, because he was like, I thought it was like suicide.
Okay.
I was like, to be fair, it sounded out like that, or it looks like it. Okay, so why are you thinking that? Because if we're going to go that route, dude, Entei.
Well, I feel like Entei, you run into the same problem as Rapidash, where he's probably pretty hot.
Well, he's not on fire across the board, though. He's just, he is the one of fire, but he's not actually actively on fire. And I think lore-wise, did you never see Pokemon 3, the movie with Entei, where it's got the Unone in there? Because a little girl rides on him.
There you go. I like Suicune because I prefer him, but
Suicune's a sick design.
I mean, Raiku's
also
pretty good.
That very pretty teal and blue with the kind of purpley mane would look really good against Aloy. That's probably actually a good point.
Yeah, we'll just go. I think we go with Suicune. I think it also looks the closest to one of those rideable dinosaurs too.
Fair enough. The big crystal on its head, almost looking like a big armor plate or something.
Exactly.
I'll give it to you, Chris. Even though I'm pretty sure if we wanted to give her, I'm pretty sure there's a robot dinosaur. I'm going to look it up real quick because I can't remember the name of it.
I'm thinking of a mecha Pokemon.
Well, I mean, you could do like Palkia or Dialga in a weird way. You could consider that to be it. But what I was actually talking about is, was it Duraludon that transforms into, like, he looks like a big skyscraper? Maybe it's Duraludon, one of his... he looks like a skyscraper, but he kind of just looks like a tech thing. I guess there really isn't a tech Pokemon. I was trying to think that through, but tech dinosaur Pokemon would definitely be the way to go if there was one that existed. I mean, I guess it's just not easy to land on. The closest I could think of is Miraidon from the new one, the purple one from the future, the Scarlet and Violet, the one for Violet that's like the motorcycle, but it has the jetpacks on it. That feels the most like a techie Pokemon.
Okay.
And she could ride it. It is a mount.
All right, then give that to her. I'm fine with that.
We'll go that route. Even though Suicune was still a good answer, but I just think there's a slightly better one. There we are. All right. Last one here. Jinsakai.
I think this one is so easy.
Now, why is that?
Because there's a perfect Pokemon for him.
Yeah, what is that?
Xatu.
The bird?
Yes.
So why do you think that's perfect?
Because Jinsakai is very stoic. Xatu is very stoic. Both very chill, very contemplative. Xatu can probably write a haiku.
You think so?
I think he could.
I'm pretty sure it's based off of like, Central America. So like Mexican American You know what I mean? Like Central America, not U.S. American, but like Central American cultures.
It's based on Ohio.
You know, Ohio culture. I mean, it could be because I mean, there's clearly a lot of similarities between Native American history and more like Mesoamerican history, I guess is what you'd call that. I don't hate it. But I don't want to go as obvious as something, or obvious but also not right, as like Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan or something dumb like that.
What? I got to find the guy's name.
Okay, I'll give you time to figure that out. Now I'm curious as to what the hell you're talking about. I mean, there's what's the Pokemon that's got the what is his name? It's gonna kill me that I can't think it through. King Gambit? Isn't that his thing? Wait.
Dual Blade.
Double A did the sword.
Yeah.
I actually did think about Own Edge, which is his final. The one I was originally thinking about is this red one. It's like Poniard or whatever. I think maybe his actual name.
The arms or whatever.
Yeah, and he's got like blades. But I actually think a better fit, weirdly enough, also because I just think he'd look cool in samurai clothes.
Okay.
Lucario.
Oh, okay.
And do you remember? I don't think you got far enough. You probably don't. In Ghost of Tsushima, there is a Sly Cooper armor set that is colored an awful lot like Lucario just by nature of how it works out. I'm just saying. I think that could look cool.
I did not see that, but I'm good with idea.
I'm going to look this up real quick. Samurai Lucario. I guarantee you there's been an art of this. Bro, this is sick. Hold on. Okay, I got to send this to you.
Okay.
I had already sold myself on it in theory, and then just being able to sell you on it in reality. Yeah. Prepare to get it's the answer.
Give it to me, daddy. The
Offspring were great live.
Yeah, we're good. We're done. It's Lucario. You're right.
That looks sick, doesn't it?
That's sick, yeah.
Now I kind of hope that they do another Pokemon Arceus Legends game or whatever Legends game, and they have like an old school Lucario.
Dude, it's Detective Pikachu, except it's Samurai Lucario.
Why not?
I'm here for that movie.
Everything is possible. Okay, so we've got our team set up. Who'd be the best trainer? I feel like the answer would probably be Kratos because he's like a military. He's like a military leader. So he knows how to train and then like delegate.
No, I actually don't think Kratos.
Oh, do you think his anger would ruin him? He'd get the best of him.
Yeah, you've played Pokemon Crystal. You know what happens. Kratos is the guy with red hair.
I mean, okay, yeah. He's your rival?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Kratos, so I think he would be the worst, actually.
I feel like Nate would be way too friendly and just wouldn't be able to like... Though also, Nate has killed probably just as many people as Kratos at this point. But I feel like taking it and looking at that, like Nate would just be having fun with it. And he wouldn't even care if he lost or won. So he wouldn't be a great trainer because he's just like, he'd be a good person and a good trainer to his Pokemon, but he wouldn't be like an effective trainer.
Yeah, I feel like Nate trains Pokemon to have friends around.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like he's just hanging out with them. Yeah. Like those are just pets to him. He's like, there goes my dog. There goes my, my other thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, the answer is Jin.
Aloy, I could see Jen. I was going to say Aloy is so used to being a loner for the most part. Even though she is, in her games, she ends up having people help her. She has this thing where she likes being alone. So for some reason, I feel like that would make her not as effective as, of a trainer, though maybe that makes her meticulous if she doesn't look at it with being something or being with somebody. And Cole is great and I love him, but that leadership doesn't seem his strong suit either.
That's fair.
Jin's a good option. I feel like Jin or Kratos, but I'm kind of with you on your reasoning for Kratos. Even though Ragnarok was trying to say that's,
Yeah, I'm going Jin personally.
I'll stick with Jin. Jin will be the best trainer. I almost wanted to give Jen a horse. I feel like that felt also useful, but I feel very good about Lucario. Definitely now I looked up Samurai Lucario, but a horse would have also been a good one.
Samurai Lucario is what ties it together, because if without that, I'd be a strong no on Lucario.
So you were ready for it to be a strong no until I proved it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I have one more for the fun of it.
Okay.
Who would be Arthur Morgan's Pokemon? Is that where we get a horse in here? Is that where we get Mudsdale?
Is it just Milk Tank? No.
I feel like a horse makes sense just so he can good boy.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That's a good boy.
I am pretty good with that.
All right, flip side.
Okay.
Who's Dutch's Pokemon? And why is it Meowth?
It's Hypno or Drowsy.
Okay, maybe.
Because he hypnotizes the people into thinking he's got a plan, Arthur. But he does not have a plan.
Damn it, Arthur.
Damn it. You got to do the cracked voice thing. Damn it, Arthur. No.
Yeah. Man, that is a good game.
Why is my Dutch a better Jerry Seinfeld than it is a Dutch?
Yeah. Oh, what's the deal with
Arthur,
all this Subway food?
I've got a plan. No, don't pick off the soup guy. Come on.
All right, Chris, are you ready to close out the sexiest section of the show?
Yes.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna come.
Well, you bitches got a long one today, so without further ado, if you want to support the show with more than just your time, head over to patreon.com/Nartech. Consider giving as little as $1 per month to help support the show directly. We are ever so thankful for those of you who do, but if you can't, we're so thankful that you've listened to this point and that you give us your time each week. We love you guys. So without further ado, one of the things that we do to support our patrons back as we give them a shout out for all the love that they provide to us at the end of episodes. So shout out to Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Easton328, Aztec King, Lecheon69, The Lord Corgi, Bailey Robertson, Mark Schutz, Cypher Primus, Kyle Grimm, Rude Days 93, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, Donovan Williams, Matthew Green, and Sean Santarud. Thanks to each and every one of you. We'll see you next week.